Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 301, and we have Tyler Jones. We are not in the garage. We're going to see how this goes.
This is going to be interesting.
Let us know how the audio is, how the video is, all that stuff. But it's cold as shit in most of the country, including Columbus, Ohio. So Correct. It is currently, it warmed up. It's in the 20s.
Oh,
it's 22. Wind chill is below that, but we decided we're going to take our talents outside the garage tonight. And here we are. How's that level there?
You're good.
Yeah.
As long as you stay in the mic, you're good.
Swat. Yeah. Okay.
We're checking.
Yeah. This is different. This is different. You can turn down the volume there, Chief, there in the audience. We do have an audience here in the Tinder Box, so we'll see what happens here.
It's like they've never been in the studio before.
Right.
It's quite
all right.
insane.
We can talk about this all we want, but we do have an audience mic. We'll use that sparingly, but we do have it. And I do want to thank our sponsors, including where we're at right now. Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. Lovely backdrop. You got the home of the BS Cigar Company, another sponsor here.
Hell yeah. Espinosa every day, baby.
Espinosa makes the BS Silver. Placencia makes the gold. And so Tinder Box at Easton, if you guys, we're going to be featuring the Espinosa Sumatra. I have already shipped some of these out. So if you guys don't have the featured cigar, if you don't have, obviously, really anything that you need, it's very new.
Very.
You can always get a hold of Tinder Box at Easton, and they will ship it and shop local-ish at a brick and mortar if you don't have one local to you. And I also want to thank Altadis USA. Anyone in the audience that has the volume up, you can turn it down because you're in. I can hear it.
Yeah.
So I know you can hear me.
I think it's Todd.
Todd, can you turn down your volume there? Turn up your hearing aid.
It's over with the glasses.
Yeah, he's got the so this is going to be different, as I keep saying.
Awesome.
Just the first hour.
I want to thank Altadis USA. Normally, we smoke a second cigar from Altadis in part 2, but we've got more Espinosa products, right?
Yes, sir. So got a little knuckle sandwich Connecticut action for us right after.
Yeah. So, and we featured that one, I think, before when it came out.
Possibly, but let's bring back the
likely.
classics.
I'm just saying. Yeah. But we want to thank Altadis for the continued support, including support.
Well, if we did need to grab an Altadis, I mean,
we're
in the shop. We can go grab one.
Absolutely.
I'm making a mess already.
Do you want this ashtray? Just put
it
it on the floor. The floor is fine. We're not in the garage, but yeah, go ahead and just ash on the floor. Normally you're in the garage.
Tomorrow, so.
I know I do. So I want to thank you guys in Altadis, like I said, for the continued support. I also want to thank patreon.com, you guys out there that do the Patreon for us. It's fantastic. And it's going to be $5, $10, or $20, $25 tiers, I believe. It's been a while since we've gone over that.
Patreon?
Patreon, yeah. Patreon.com/bourbonandbs podcast. And you guys can support us. You can do it once. You can do it several times. We appreciate the continued support. Also, you do the Venmo at Bourbon and BS as it scrolls across your screen there for a one-time contribution. And Nate, are you showing off your gear? Is that where you're leaning back? So the BS Cigar Company gear that Nate's got on, the 3/4 sleeves. I got the barrel head Bourbon and BS black camo hoodie. Buyjack.com/Bourbon and BS. You guys can get on there. There's a lot of podcast stuff, BS Cigar Company stuff on there, a lot of swag, including some lady stuff as well. Good hoodies. We've got 3/4. We got t-shirts, everything.
You have the pink shirt back yet?
Not yet, no.
You guys need to bring that
back.
That
was a limited edition for Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
That's right.
Hey, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month every month. Everybody's getting it all the time.
Richie Wright says Tyler is a stud. That
my
is
man Richie.
Debatable, but you guys work together, so I get it. We're gonna kick this
in
up.
Colorado right now.
Is he really?
Yeah. Imagine how cold it is out there. Richie, if you're still
probably not much colder, honestly.
How cold is it?
I mean, it can't be much colder, honestly. I mean, this is where we're at here. So tonight, like I said, we're gonna be smoking the Espinosa Sumatra, brand new, and we're drinking something. Nate, what are we drinking exactly here?
This is the Issac Bowman port barrel finish bourbon. So it's coming out of a distillery out of Virginia. We featured the regular Bowman brothers on the podcast before. So, you know, basically they're taking Buffalo Trace barrels and redistilling it at their distillery. And then this one, they're finishing it in a port wine barrel, or multiple port wine barrels, I should say.
Really? Multiple?
Where is this coming out of?
Virginia.
So is this similar as the Bowman brothers that we've had before? Is this the same
brand
juice coming out of Buffalo Trace, or is this different?
Same juice. It's then so it's on their stuff, it's usually like an average of 7 to 9 year age. But then they are using port barrels, some from Virginia wineries.
That is quite the.
There's
There's a
they got
book
a
on the
Bible
back.
on the back of that thing.
There is a book.
That thing is thick with a K right there. I'll tell you what.
Wow.
tell you what.
I'm not even going to read this so long, but it talks about named for a true American spirit, Captain Isaac Bowman, soldier militia officer who fought in the American Revolutionary War. He's a prisoner of war. He historically escaped, embarking on a 2-year adventure before returning home to Virginia in 1782. A lot going on here.
Wow. What a hero.
It's an American legend.
See, I say this now, and I don't know the guy. The guy
It's an
might
American goddamn
have a, the guy
legend.
might have a history, bro. We don't know this.
Yeah.
You can't say
They probably
legend,
do. I mean, back in the day, it's
Especially in Virginia.
There are some questionable things going on.
there probably were. I mean, we don't have to get into that. I mean, he escaped from prison of being a prisoner of war.
Why was he a prisoner?
That they don't talk about it, honestly.
I wonder why.
Well, no, wait.
It's the American Revolutionary War.
Exactly. So
Oh,
anyone who wasn't
probably.
fighting for the crown was a prisoner of war.
That's a good point. The crown.
So, like the great American spirit that was Captain Isaac Bowman, so too is this bourbon that bears his namesake.
I love it. I love it. Let's go, America.
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 All right.
Yeah.
Let's take a sip of this. What do we know anything else? Chrissy says thick with 2 C's.
It's a good call.
No, this is so this one is new to Ohio. I picked it up the first time Carfagna's got it in, and I've been sitting on it. And so, hey,
How new are we talking? Like when is last month? Last 2 months?
within the last 6 months.
Okay.
So it's recent.
Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
recent.
Recent.
And I don't think I've seen just the regular Bowman Brothers in Ohio, even though it's listed on OHLQ.
It's available, but I think when I got it last, it was in Chicago area, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that was it.
It's in a lot of places in Chicago.
Great
Yeah, I've
buy.
seen it.
The regular Bowman Brothers around $30.
27, I think, is
Yeah,
what it's
around
listed on
$30.
OHLQ.
And it's great juice, and
Mhm.
it's been good.
Yeah.
All right, what's this listed at?
$42.99.
Very
So a little bit
approachable.
more.
So $15 more, I think, than the regular Bowman
Mm-hmm.
Brothers.
Tyler, what are you thinking?
I don't mind it. You know,
Oh, that's
it's
fucking.
well.
Oh, I don't mind it. Okay, well,
no,
Great
it's,
review.
oh, you let me get into it a
if
little
you got an
bit.
Arizona iced tea, you might like better over there if you want to do that. Jesus.
No.
All right, what don't you mind about it? Let's expand on this epic review here.
No, it's very
That's
it's very approachable on the palate. It's only 92 proof, so it's not gonna hit you in the face with a ton of those high spice notes or anything like that. You get some out of some higher proof stuff that unfortunately Jake Sanders has put onto my body. That sounded different.
I don't know what you said there, but go
But
on.
anyways.
just kind of breeze past that
We
part.
breeze past that.
Move on.
No, it's super easy. It's got some nice sweetness to it, which obviously you get that from the port barrels and stuff like that.
Mhm.
It's got a nice light body to it. I mean, it's a pretty solid port barrel finish, I'd say.
I agree.
like
Nate?
you can definitely pick up that wine on the nose and the palate, like more so on the nose.
For sure.
You
Yeah.
can get that.
The sweetness really shines because
Yeah.
of that fucking port barrel.
Yeah, usually, so doing port barrel finishes or finishes in general when it comes to bourbon, like that's in the grand scheme of things, that's a newer thing.
Port is?
No, finishing in port
Oh.
barrels or any other barrels when it comes to bourbon,
Ah,
that's a newer thing. Lincoln Henderson, when he created Angel's Envy, that was like the first mainstream one to
Mainstream,
do that
yeah.
because he wanted to do that for many of the years that he worked for Brown Forman Group.
Yeah.
So like he created Gentleman Jack when he worked for that group and stuff.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had quite the resume. He's in the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame and stuff.
How old
and,
is this guy?
Josh,
he's
you try
dead.
this.
Oh,
He's
okay.
dead.
Oh, his son is
His son is Wes,
Wes.
but now Wes's sons have kind of taken over things as well.
how old's Wes?
Wes, I want to put him in his 60s.
I don't know why. I
but-
always pictured him as a young guy for whatever reason.
but
This
Lincoln,
Angel Envy we're talking about.
Yeah.
but Lincoln, he'd always wanted to do like a wine finish, a port barrel finish, and that's what
Mhm.
Angel's Envy is. So it wasn't until he retired and a couple years later when he started Angel's Envy that he could actually do that on his own because
Yeah.
that's what he had wanted to do. So that's why he started doing that. It was after he left Brown Foreman and retired, quote unquote.
There's definitely a history there.
And initially when that came out, you had a lot of the bourbon purists were like, that's not bourbon. You can't finish it. That's not bourbon. It's like, no, if you look at all the rules and regulations to be a bourbon, it says nothing about finishing it in another barrel.
Yeah.
I think you get that anytime. I mean, you get that in the cigar industry, obviously, also. It's anytime you do something, you cure. I mean, even like finishing some of the tobacco in the barrels and stuff, that wasn't even talked about.
Right. Yeah.
Because they're altering the purity of it, and obviously the flavored cigars is something different, or the infused cigars, whatever you want to say.
It's like that in music too. I mean, everybody's like, "Oh, bro, country ain't country," but it's like, "Oh, there's no rules really." So I mean, it is kind of a country thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's different. Everyone, I think with this also, I mean, there was a huge, not huge, obviously not now anymore, but several years ago, there's a lot of people that thought like, "Oh, if it's not in Bourbon County, right?
If it's not from Kentucky, it's
not from Kentucky."
I still get that every now and then at California's. People come, it's not bourbon, and if it's not Kentucky, it's like, no, every state in the U.S. makes bourbon.
Yeah,
every single one of them.
Yeah, it's just the home, kind of the home, the capital.
Well, yeah, because there's more barrels in rick houses in Kentucky than there are people in Kentucky.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Almost 2 to 1.
Do you know how long this was actually finished in the barrels? Did you read about that?
I don't know that.
They disclosed it really.
Typically, when you do a finishing, usually you're looking at like 4 to 6 months on average for a lot of distilleries.
Let's say it on there.
I don't remember it saying that. Some of them might do a little bit longer. Because if you hit 2 years, then it's technically considered like a double barreling instead of just a finish. So
it usually is a short.
Usually, though, they're only doing it for that 4 to 6 months because they just want an essence of that barrel. They don't want the flavor of that wine barrel to dominate.
They
the
don't
flavor
want it
of
to
the
be
bourbon.
like an infusation of.
You don't want it to be a flavored whiskey,
right?
I mean, really, I mean that's the difference between finishing and flavoring it. But you do get a bit of that, almost in the color. There's a hint, I think. I don't know if you guys see that.
A little bit of that red.
Just a slight red hue. Honestly.
To the smoke right now.
But it's got a nice like lighter caramel color to it. But you pick up a little bit of that red. Like even when you're looking at it in the bottle, like we turn it to the sides, that way our audience can see it. Like
our wall's purple behind it, so it's kind of confusing.
Well, I'm holding it. How about I hold it
in front of Tyler?
Yeah, hold it in front of me.
Yeah, hold it right in front of us. Yeah.
Perfect.
Face is a little red already, but just kidding. Good. No, I like this. It does have a little bit of that sweetness that you guys are talking about, but you still get, I think, some like the caramel, some of the traditional notes. I think from that, I don't really get like some of the classic. I don't get much vanilla. I don't get much like little oakiness. There's some spice to it, actually.
Yeah,
there's a nice.
Yeah, there's
spice
really
to
no oakiness to it, but yeah, the spice is definitely there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so typically with what they're doing, they're taking that Buffalo Trace #1 mash bill, and that's what they are then redistilling.
Yeah.
So that's
what are some bourbons that are using that mash bill from Buffalo Trace?
Buffalo Trace.
Okay.
Yeah, that's gonna be your main one. That I mean, there's a whole lineup. I probably still have a picture or something of like there was a breakdown. Like here's the ones that use their #1. Here's the ones that use their #2. Then you have their rye mash bill. And then you have their weeded mash bill.
You can find that on the World Wide Web pretty easy, probably.
Yes.
The internet.
Yeah.
The internet.
For sure.
Go ahead.
No, saying World Wide Web is actually faster than saying www.
Yeah.
Less syllables.
True. I like this. There is a spice to it. I've set the
Yeah.
cigar down for a while because I think, and I talked to Tyler about it when he asked me what I thought when I did the Tasty Tuesday on the Espinosa Sumatra. There is a bit of a punch to it right when you light it up. I think, it's a little bit of that. Put that down.
That classic Espinosa pop right at the beginning.
It's a little bit of that, yeah. But I think with this one, there is a lingering spice that up front it's a lot sweeter, and then it has a nice, like, kind of warmer finish. And especially, would you say it was 92?
Yeah, 92 proof.
I mean, it's not that hot.
No, it goes down super easy.
I mean, when you talk about that spice on the back end of it, does it remind you of a Buffalo Trace product?
A little bit. Honestly, a little bit.
Yeah.
Sweeter. Trying to think just of the regular Buffalo Trace, you do have a little bit, I think, that spice on the finish of a regular Buffalo Trace.
You get a
little
lot
heat.
Yeah, you get a lot of oak and char, and then a little bit of spice on that one.
What's the proof on that? Like
90.
Right
so
there.
But again, remember,
so
typically what they're doing is they're taking that #1 mash bill and redistilling it. So it's already been aged in a barrel, and then they redistill it, age it again. So that redistilling, they're taking
triple.
They're taking more Well, yeah, like Irish whiskey
Yeah.
is triple distilled.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can see,
Yeah.
you know, there are some vodkas that are 5.
Is that why
10
it's so
times.
smooth and so easy to go down?
That's one of the things, because the more you distill it, the more impurities and other flavors you're burning off in the
Yeah.
distillation process.
Mhm.
So that's why, you know, yes, this has some spice, but not as much as like some of your regular Buffalo Trace products.
Yeah, not like in your face. I'm surprised how much spice it has as it sits on my tongue. You know, like as it
Yeah.
sits here after you take a sip of it without smoking the cigar. It's very pleasant. It does transition a bit as you drink it, but it's a nice bottle.
It's growing on me. I know my first
you
response
say-
was a
what
little
was it?
harsh, but you know,
How'd you say it? Not bad.
It's not that bad.
Not that.
No.
Was it?
It's not.
It wasn't that complimentary.
Yeah, and I was going to have you remind me that when we talk about the cigar, that's what I'm going
Right.
to say in my review. It's like, it's not that bad.
It's smokable. It's smokable, much like
What
the
did
bottle
I
is
say?
drinkable.
Anyone in the comments that remember what I said at the beginning, please put it down in there. I'm struggling already.
Yeah,
Good
struggle.
God.
We're in
bus.
for a long night.
It's gonna be something.
I like the Bowman Brothers stuff that I've had. This is the second one I've had. I like it because the price point's nice and reasonable, much like some of the base Buffalo Trace ones.
Yeah.
They're not demanding a whole lot. Getting that, you know, where a normal Buffalo Trace bottle fifth is what, like less than 30, so 25.
$26.99 now
So
in
I'll
Ohio.
So you have that, and then you have, I don't know what Ohio charges for Bowman Brothers, but again, taking that juice and putting more behind it. They're buying it. They're not straight from Sazerac, you know what I mean, from Buffalo Trace. So what?
They are, in 2013, they got bought by Sazerac.
Oh, then fuck, I don't know.
So what, this is a Buffalo Trace product then?
Well, no, because it's not coming out of the Buffalo Trace distillery technically, because you have to put whoever it was last distilled by.
But they own it.
Sazerac owns this brand.
So the parent company of Buffalo Trace owns Bowman Brothers.
Yes.
Okay. That makes it a lot easier to. Oh, I don't mind it.
But because
That's what
of
it
that-
was. I don't mind it. Chrissy.
I don't mind it. Yeah.
I don't
So,
mind
thank you, Chrissy. Thank you very much.
it. I don't mind it. That's how I said it. Exactly.
You know, maybe Captain Isaac Bowman was a little deceitful, just like this, the marketing behind this. The fact that,
Yeah.
you know, Sazerac owns it.
The Billy LaRue
Well,
of Isaac.
But no, it kind of, but it's kind of like the new Traveler whiskey that came into Ohio 2 weeks ago. Like, people have been going nuts over it, and because they're like, oh, this is from Buffalo Trace. And it's like, well, technically no,
There goes that.
because
It's gone.
it says it's blended and bottled by Buffalo Trace. It's not distilled by Buffalo Trace. And then also,
Thank you, Vanna.
it's a whiskey, not a bourbon. So not everything that went into it is a bourbon. And just explaining this to some people, like,
Yeah.
they are losing their minds because they had it dead set in their mind that this was a Buffalo Trace product. And then when you explain it to them, they're like, what? Like, they almost feel heartbroken. But, you know, sell 8 cases of it in 3 days at our store.
So Traveler's not a Buffalo Trace product.
It's blended and bottled by Buffalo Trace. But it's, if you, on the back label, it says from award-winning distilleries.
So I'm sure part of it is Buffalo.
Oh,
Trace,
yes, there's
right?
some Buffalo
Yeah,
Trace.
right,
Of
right,
course.
yeah,
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
yeah.
of course.
I mean,
They-
they could have had MGP in there.
Yeah,
and,
they
you know,
went
some other
they went
stuff.
through like 50 different blends
Wow.
before picking it out.
Good for Chris.
We're gonna feature that. We've
Next
had
time
it.
we get a bottle,
Next time we get.
I've got half a bottle.
Yeah, he brought one. You know, he brought one to me as well. I'm like, oh, I was like, we'll do it on. You know, I'll get the bottle or whatever. And I thought it was going to be regularly released. So I'm just like, all right.
Yeah,
So I've already
it will be
killed
like,
a good chunk of it. And
Right.
then he's like, how much do you have left? I was like, yeah, I don't have much. How much do you have? He's like, half.
yeah,
I don't know. if
I
We
got
can do
2
it.
pours.
Yeah, I don't know if we can combine the two. We're still not going to get there, but
yeah.
um,
So that one's supposed to be a shelfer, but you have to wait till the craze dies down a little bit.
oh my God, yeah. The
Nice job, Steve.
well, let's not. We can talk about it more when we review that, but the
Yeah.
social media response that I've seen on the Traveler and stuff like that, it's just everyone calm down. Just fucking calm down, all right?
Oh, is there a
No,
there's a
it's
conundrum in the bourbon
no,
world?
it's just like, oh, this is the
Shocker.
next best bottle. Like they just
Oh.
revolutionized bourbon,
Yeah.
whiskey, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like everyone's thinking it's going to be like this. Oh my God! And it's like it's a $40 bottle, blended bourbon, like
So it's the next blends.
Except it's not even a bourbon; it's just a whiskey.
blended
So, like,
whiskey.
there's-
I'm just saying,
there's
everyone
rumors
like
that
they're
there's-
snatching it all up, thinking it wasn't going to be there. And then I start hearing people's like, oh, you know, it's not that good. I'm like, so we'll talk about it more. But I'm just, it's just like
I heard it's got Pappy in it. You know?
Yeah.
It's like-
same thing. Chris
Say
Stapleton sang
Mashville.
to it.
Kind of like the Metallica Blackened. They just
Yeah.
play Chris Stapleton music to the barrels.
Let's keep moving. Let's keep moving.
Here we go.
Here we
Let's
go.
Should we talk about the cigar a little bit?
No, it's fine.
Well, yeah. It's a good thing
We
we
don't
started
need
with
to.
the whiskey.
I don't mind it.
I figured let's do.
All right, since Tyler's here, actually, not. It's more for Eric, not you,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
but I appreciate it. Tyler, what are we smoking tonight?
So what we are smoking tonight is the new Espinosa Sumatra. We just released this. We just started shipping it January 2nd of this year. Kind of starting 2024 off with a bang, and then a new addition to the Espinosa core line with the Espinosa Crema and Habano. Same branding and same packaging, just tweaked a little bit. Featuring a Sumatra wrapper from Ecuador. Not way lighter than any Sumatra we've used previously in any of the Espinosa
Lighter
brands.
in shade.
Lighter in shade.
Yeah.
Well, lighter in body and all that other stuff, along with the shade of the wrapper.
Mhm.
We've used it in the Knuckle Sandwich Maduro, and before that, we actually used it in the Laranja Azulejo. So, which are both way darker renditions of that. That's way darker Sumatra than what we're using on this. So it's gonna be a lot heavier. in
Yeah,
those
Azulejo's
blends.
pretty.
Those are
That's
two.
Maduro Oscuro style right there.
Yeah, those are two
Yeah.
pretty hefty blends that we use those heavier wrappers for, and so we went a different approach with this, kind of following the same lines as the Espinosa Habano and Crema, where it's a more medium-bodied smoke. It still has that classic Eric Espinosa spice profile to it, but it's also got some nuttiness to it, some creaminess to it, and it's a super easy cigar to smoke. I've been loving it. The Robusto size is my particular favorite size.
Robusto.
Yeah, the Robusto I think is out of
Where
this
it's at.
world. Yeah, that there's always one size. There's always one size in every brand. I can go down the whole Espinosa portfolio and tell you my favorite preferred size and everything. So the Robusto I can already tell right off the bat. This is like my go-to.
And this Toro is what, 6x52, 54?
The Toro is a 6x54. The Robusto is a 5x52, and the Gordo is a class of 6x60 Gordo.
Just 3 sizes.
Correct.
Yeah, it's interesting that you guys put this, I think, with the Crema and the Habano and the branding, because it is, I think, kind of along the similar lines with it. And this
It's
is
a
all
similar smoking experience for the
Nicaraguan,
most part.
Nicaraguan filler binder.
Correct.
Okay.
Not it's coming out of Lozona.
Yeah, and this comes out of Lozona just like those other two.
Is there any like shared tobaccos between the 3 blends, or is that not really?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier when someone had this. Actually, Jake was smoking it. He looked at it. I didn't know what to expect from this. The shade of the wrapper leaf, and when we opened the boxes, I looked at it. It's much lighter.
Yeah. Oh,
Much lighter than
it's
what
night
I
and day
expect.
compared to like Knuckle Sandwich
Yeah,
Maduro.
it's not only that, it almost looks like I would almost guess that this is like a Habano look to it.
Well, if you remember, I mean, there's a long stretch. A lot of companies in our industry were using a lighter shade of Sumatra for a long time until like EP Carrillo made Sumatra kind of cool back in the late '90s with La Gloria and what the hell is the
The Gloria Cubana
yeah, but the big one that the shit.
Siri.
Oh, I think it's just a classic Siriar Sumatra.
That I don't remember.
Ernie used it in some La Gloria. Let's just put it that way.
So
and
it's
it was a really dark, rich Sumatra. And then it kind of went through a phase in the industry as using lighter, like Rocky's Decade. That's a lighter Sumatra. Crown Heads, our friends in the crowd tonight, they used it in the Capa Especial 4 Kicks. That's a much classic.
Which is
lighter.
because that's what Ernesto wanted to do.
Yeah, sure.
What I'm saying,
so,
like the branding of it being Sumatra.
Yeah.
And I was telling the guys from Crown Heads earlier, like when I think of Sumatra, like as a branding, it's not normally used as part of the brand or the blend, right?
right.
It's a part of the cigar. It's a wrapper leaf, but it's not something
They
they
don't
do.
call it Sumatra.
No,
Right,
the only one that I remember when I first got into this, like whatever, 15 some years ago, was the Christoph Sumatra. Like
That's
Glenn
one that the Edge Sumatra from
Rocky to the Edge Sumatra, yeah. And
Yeah.
I just think of typically a little bit of a darker leaf because of that when it's branded that way. So again, the mind can play tricks on you, especially mine. But
and at the end of the day, Sumatra's just a wrapper leaf. It doesn't,
Correct. And it's
doesn't
used
represent
a lot.
the color. It doesn't represent that. It's just it's the tobacco.
I know.
Yeah.
So you can use it in a billion different ways.
Absolutely.
And I think we kind of led the way for the industry. We're not taking credit for anything by any means, but when we did the Azulejo, there weren't too many newer Sumatras coming out that were that dark.
Certainly not.
Not as common.
No.
And then we followed up with Knuckle Sandwich Maduro. And now you're seeing, dark Sumatra popping up all over the place all of a sudden.
Branded as that, marketed as that. Dark
for
Sumatra.
sure.
Yeah.
Our friends at Romacraft, they did their new Intemperance Volstead, which is a dark Sumatra, which is a fantastic cigar, by the way.
Yeah.
If you haven't smoked it. But it's just there's a resurgence of dark Sumatra in our industry. And we took a step back and we decided to go with something a little bit more classic, Eric Espinosa style. As Hector says, this is definitely an Eric Espinosa type cigar.
It is, and it does have a little bit of that pop. But he doesn't like too peppery, but I mean, he does like a little bit.
He's a Habano guy.
It's a smooth wrapper too, like just the texture.
It's a very smooth wrapper.
It's quality.
The branding you guys did with the Espinosa Habano and the Crema, and now the Sumatra,
and Especial when we did that.
Especial Alpha Dog had similar.
Yeah, Alpha Dog had the same.
The bands on this, guys. I mean, the boxes are pretty basic, traditional. I mean, they're open top boxes. They're not slide top or
What's
anything
the
like
box look like?
Like the Habano.
Crema and the Habano.
Natural wood,
natural wood.
with like the stamp on there.
And it's got the purple.
Yeah, it's got the purple on the band, so I didn't know if that was incorporated in the box.
Yeah, the colors on
box
this.
Purple in it.
The colors on this. The Espinosa Habano is still one of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
The colors of it, the way it goes with
the gold.
Yeah, but the way it matches, it matches up with the wrapper leaf and everything else is great. This being the silver, and is that purple?
Yeah,
purple.
Definitely bold looking here. The silver, it's very bright because
it's like
of that.
TCU color scheme, right?
It is.
Yeah, right.
But I do like,
and
compliments to, I assume this is Cigar Band Man doing the band still.
I would imagine.
Some of the more crisp guys, some of the more crisp, not that it's affects the smoke, but the bands that you guys make with the Laranja series, the Espinosa series, they stand out. They're not overly intricate, but they are extremely crisp, and the embossment on it's always great too.
As Eric Espinosa says, we don't cut corners.
You don't.
100%.
Cigar Band Man is a one-man operation, or him and his wife that I know of, but it's a small operation, so it's not like the big cigar rings.
Ricky, right?
Yeah. And Vanessa's his wife, but they do some great work.
Do they do your guys' band for the BS?
Thanks to Eric Espinosa referring us, but we switched from another company to him, and I mean, again, it was a huge upgrade on what we were doing with the BS cigars for sure. Again, just unmatched is my opinion. I mean, you look at some of the depth and the different type of materials they can use, or the things they can use, like with the Opus that over in Europe, whoever makes that, I forget the company's name.
Was it Rye Dog?
Yeah,
something like that.
They can do some amazing stuff.
Yeah,
but that you're paying for it. Even as a consumer, you're paying for it.
Yeah, for sure.
So you guys definitely hit it out of the park with the branding on this.
Yeah, and I think there's a place in our portfolio for it. It's different for us, especially what we've been doing lately. We've been kind of hitting all these like really big body, big, bold flavors and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, last year you guys came out with,
even the Knuckle Sandwich Connecticut, that glue though. Chrissy's hit it around the head. it can get you.
I will say.
I replied to her. I haven't taken mine off yet, so
right.
Let's see.
It's a very sturdy band.
She goes, it's a sturdy band. It's got sturdiness to it.
It's load bearing.
You gotta take a hammer to that thing.
You're going to be struggling if you want this band to be a part of whatever you're making with cigar bands and stuff like that. You're going to really have to talk nice to this band before you take it off.
Yeah. Well, the other day when Lutzker over there, when he took the band off the Warhead 9. Oh, that was like the cleanest band from.
You got one clean.
Oh,
beautiful.
You can get lucky sometimes. Now I'm just gonna try to slide this. I'm not gonna do it. Leave it on there.
Is there any concern? And Tyler, you can speak of this from your own experience, or if you know anything from Eric. Is there any concern based on the flavor profile and the strength of this cigar about cannibalizing some of your own portfolio that already exists?
So right off the bat, obviously, I haven't noticed it. I mean, it's a possibility. I mean, maybe, but I don't see it. I think the people that are hardcore Espinosa guys and that
they're gonna smoke everything.
Yeah, they're gonna smoke everything. And the guys who smoke Habano, and the guys who smoke Crema, and the guys who smoke maybe Knuckle Sandwich Habano, or Laranja Reserva. This is a nice cigar to change it up a little bit. And it's going to fit that same wheelhouse. It's going to hit that same type of smoker, I think.
It's still medium, but it definitely has more that spice kick than the Habano.
I've gotten people that say I usually don't like Sumatra stuff, and this doesn't taste like a traditional lighter Sumatra. And there's people that really
I would agree
don't
with
like
that.
Sumatra. And yeah, that's their palate and
I love
whatever.
Sumatra.
I got no problem with you know, if you don't like Sumatra, but at least give this one a shot because I think it kind of separates itself from some others.
I think it does, and we talked about it before on the show, where sometimes when you market something as such, talked about it more recently with the Camacho broadleaf, where it doesn't taste like your traditional broadleaf cigar because it's a Honduran broadleaf. It's not super dark,
Right?
but you can kind of hit or miss depending on the consumer. You can hit it where it's like everyone's like, oh, you know, this Sumatra, and they like it. It's different. I like this, but I like Sumatra stuff. Other people are like, I don't really like Sumatra stuff.
Yeah,
we'll smoke it. Or
you don't know until you try.
Or there's some that will like Sumatra, your traditional, like a Edge Sumatra, like the Christoph Sumatra. Just from the name alone, they smoke this and like, that's not what I expected at all.
Right. Yeah.
And so sometimes I think it can backfire a little bit, hoping it doesn't.
Right.
But I do. The retrohale is really what surprised me throughout the cigar.
Yeah.
The retrohale definitely has a little bit of a kick to it.
Yes, it does.
A little bit of the lighter pepper to it. Definitely has a little bit of strength in the retrohale that you don't get on your palate. So if you guys don't retrohale, you're not going to get that aspect of it. But I mean, if you do, it definitely has a, Chrissy says, a little mild for me, but I don't mind it. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, it's
kind of like what you said about the whiskey. I don't know if that was intentional or not, Chrissy.
Yeah,
but I like that.
Right there. I like that.
I like that. I don't know if she meant to do it.
She's on her toes. She's on her toes tonight.
She's on fire. Fire.
I gotta say that's one of the best parts about having Tyler on is Chrissy keeps commenting every time Tyler's on. So it's like, hey, she's always
everyone out there who's Chrissy is with.
She's with Executive Cigars down in Simpsonville, Kentucky, right outside Louisville. Yep. And great Espinosa Lounge.
Yep.
A great supporter of the brand, stuff like that. We love them down there. And I was down there for their 10th anniversary for their shop. When we had Jack, Hector, Eric Jr. made a surprise visit during that day and stuff like that. So it was that was a fun time. And me and a whole bunch of the Indianapolis crew went down there and showed some support and stuff. And then Doug Sifford was buying like every other box that they had for sale at that event. It was hilarious.
Just going nuts.
Doug was just kept going back to the register where he was cleaning out with some of the cool things that they get that some other people don't have.
That you can't find everywhere, right?
Right. Yeah. Like we had a bundle of 601 Red Rabitos down there.
Oh.
And it was like one bundle. I'm like, what the heck? I even said, what the hell are these? I've never seen these before. And they're like, we get some stuff. I'm like, okay, I see your flex right there. I see your flex. And then Doug ended up buying the bundle.
Is that Doug's account?
That is.
So he's buying from it.
You're right. Yeah.
Dipping in.
He's dipping in his own own stash kind of deal.
Tough, man. It's pretty cyclical there. I think he's losing there a little bit. You know, his
Dougie
commission.
Dougie Fresh is the best.
He's been on the show before.
Yeah,
he is awesome.
Doug's awesome. I love him.
He is awesome. Mike Dieter says Executive Cigars is a fantastic shop. Another one. He's in the Indy area. He comes in here. He's been on the show. He's on the show last week.
Yeah. For your 300th episode, right?
300th, yeah.
Congratulations.
Absolutely. He always brings. Awesome. He tries to bring some good Espinosa stuff too.
Yeah.
He gets some of the rare stuff, and we're like, just you enjoy it. Like, don't. Yeah. You know, he's looking forward to the.
He got you guys Murcielago de Oros.
That's right.
He did.
Right?
He gave me one of the.
You can't.
Yeah. He gave me one of the Crema Laranja event cigars that you guys do.
The Crema de Laranja?
Yeah. He gave me one of those because he's like, this is a little bit lighter than what I like to smoke.
Yeah.
I know one of his favorites, one of my favorites that, we both wish was produced more was that Knuckle Sandwich 55.
Stay tuned. I will say
what comes after 55?
56.
That's right. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned to my social media. Hopefully we'll be seeing that, maybe some information on that popping up soon. So
sooner than later, hopefully.
But
that's going to be it'll be interesting. But I've enjoyed this cigar. Big Espinosa fan, but I've really enjoyed this cigar. It's been received well too.
Yeah, and I traveled between 5 states, and everybody who's got it so far haven't had any complaints really on it. So it's been received really well in the market. I've got guys already thrown in the rotation, stuff like that at multiple accounts. So it's been.
Is it on back order yet, or do you still have?
No, we still got some.
I'm just saying, sometimes you release a cigar, you just get it out there.
We went through a lot. Let's just put it that way. But we still have some.
Well, I like what you were saying too. That Eric and Jack and the guys were talking about it. You had it ready to go.
Yeah.
Boxed up, ready to go. And you're going into the 2024, and this year, for those that are in the cigar industry, or a lot of stuff's released at what's called the PCA, and that's the trade show. Normally in the summertime, this time it's going to be towards later part of March.
Correct.
And I remember you were saying that.
Well, this was supposed to be kind of like our flagship release for TPE, which is a smaller trade show.
That.
Yeah, which is at the end of this month. In a couple weeks, I'll be in Vegas for that. And so we had that was going to be like our kind of debut. We're going to start taking pre-orders like the week before.
Let's go.
And then,
but I think
Eric saw all the boxes in the warehouse, and he goes, so we're just going to sit on these until TPE. We're like, it's your company, bro.
Let's go.
Like, let's go. Let's get them out.
I think one of the good things about releasing it before a big trade show like that is you start getting buzz out there already. Yeah. It's already hitting shops. People are going out there getting to smoke it. There's a buzz going.
Yeah.
So that way now shops that are going to TPE or a place that are going to order it, it's like, okay, maybe they've been getting asked for this cigar, or they got a few boxes and it's been well received at their shop. Cool. Now when they go to TPE, it's like, all right, this is a little bit more popular and bigger than what I was initially expecting. So
and during this time last year, we released Knuckle Sandwich Connecticut.
Yep.
In January.
Mm-hmm.
What a way to start 2023.
I think I smoked more of that cigar last year than any other cigar.
I appreciate that. That cigar is that's why we're smoking it second.
Hey, we got one right here.
Yeah.
What a great plug there, Nate.
Well, I mean, it's done well at my humidor too.
Beautiful. So. I appreciate that. And luckily we started. It was cool to start, your first day back from the holidays and, taking a little
clean band.
Hey, Chrissy, look at that. Perfect, clean band, no rips, no tears. Didn't even tear the wrapper of the cigar. That's about as clean as you get from Espinosa.
Sometimes it's really delicate. You can't just get in there all aggressive like that. Way to go, Nate.
Yeah, I had to wait until it was about ready to start burning the band.
I guess mine
gotta wait till she's ready. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you gotta wait.
Really clean too.
You went in there a little early, I feel like.
I did. I was kind of worried when I started.
Get excited about it.
I get excited.
Sometimes
you pops a little early.
The patience is not always there.
No.
It's a miracle.
I like the strategy, though, that you guys are doing with that. And it's a slippery slope because sometimes if everyone releases something like, oh, now they're releasing something early, now we're going to release something early, then you don't have anything for the TPE, the PCA, which is a different trade shows where
Trust
you
me, we're gonna have plenty for PCA.
No, I know, but it's nice because sometimes also retailers and consumers, even once it gets to the consumer, if you guys release everything, you release like 6 new blends at a trade show. Well, now the retailer has to figure out, can I afford all of it?
Do I have
what do I
want to
get? What did I like? Whatever it is. Do I have shelf space? All that stuff. And then gets the consumer. Yeah, but what's new consumer a lot of times, or Espinosa loyal consumers too, brand loyal consumers. They can't always try everything at once.
Right.
Either.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, so you kind of can get a bottleneck there, and then you compound that obviously with all the other manufacturers as well.
You have to strategically place everything throughout the year and stuff like that. Well, just so you don't cannibalize you want a brand when you come out, you want to be responsible to that brand. You have to be able to give it time to have legs and build and get that following, with that being the new thing. You can't just keep pounding new things over new things, because that thing's going to get forgotten next thing you know. Well, Azuleo kind of got that because we had like 4 things come out of that trade show. And Azuleo kind of took a little bit to really catch on. Now Azuleo's been selling like crazy, and it's been awesome. And not just right now, but it took a little time because we had so much stuff coming out.
And that can kill a brand before it even gets a start.
100%.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I think another issue you run into from a manufacturer standpoint, coming out with something early in the year. So like places in the Midwest and Northeast, experiencing cold weather like we are right now, you don't get as many people coming into the shops. They're not able to sit outside and smoke. So sales take a dip right after that holiday rush of December. And so if you're coming out with new stuff early in the year, retailers don't necessarily have a bunch of cash flow to bring on new facings.
Yeah.
So when you bring on something though, like mid to late spring or in the summer, like business is great. People are smoking outside. They're going to golf courses. You're ton of cash flow coming in. They can sit there and afford to bring on maybe a new facing.
Yeah.
But it's a little harder when you're bringing out something, I think, depending on the market you're trying to really focus on, that you think it's going to do well.
There's no right time to do it. I think, that was the other thing with the major trade show like the PCA.
Yeah.
Being in the middle of the summer, a lot of cash flow, retailers are buying. And then there became a time there, this is even pre-2020, where it's like, okay, I order it all. And of course, you don't pay until it ships.
Right.
But all of a sudden, it's like, oh,
there's delays and stuff like that.
So you're going to get it September 1. That turns into October 1. And then all of a sudden you're getting into the slower time of
November,
the year.
December.
And you're like, well,
I'm
I wanted
in the
it.
Midwest, bro.
I wanted it for the
In
summer.
July.
Right.
So maybe you're going to see a little bit of that with this March thing of it kind of hitting at the right time.
Yeah.
As long as they stay away from the Smoking 10 event, which is March 16th. Can't do it the same weekend.
Espinosa will be proudly represented by myself and Eric Espinosa. That
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. I mean, the announcement's going out, but that's cool. Tell everyone. What's going on? Who's going?
Yeah, Tyler.
Just us. I will
Once again,
confirm us.
Tyler blew it early.
Jeez, he just gets excited.
excited,
he just
bro.
throws it out there.
It's
Just
awesome.
like Chris Farley, like the Tommy boy. Eric's going to be there. All right.
Yeah,
Jesus.
there you go. There we go.
Thanks, Tyler,
Breaking news.
for the 2 people that are watching this. Just
No,
kidding.
thankfully, we got a lot.
There's definitely more.
Thankfully, we got a lot more than
I
that.
was like,
watching.
looking, I was
Yeah.
like, whoa.
No, you can
Sweet.
see the count on your phone.
I know. I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
yeah. You can see
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Teach him how to use an iPhone.
Well, and that one's just the Facebook. The computer actually shows also included is the YouTube list.
Yeah,
Does it really?
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
And right now we're on Instagram, and those are listening. If you catch us on Instagram, we're not monitoring the feed, so hopefully you guys are talking amongst yourself, or you just sit back and listen. Or if you're listening on the Instagram feed for the first hour, you can always click over to Facebook or YouTube and pick it up where you left off, because it will shut it down after the first hour.
Instagram's kind of new for you guys, right?
It is, because our streaming services, they added it a few weeks ago.
Okay.
But again, right now, Instagram Live, it doesn't save it, and it's going to be, hey, Todd Gordish, everyone. Keep moving. I have a suspicion we're going to see him again shortly.
He's the most tenured employee at the Tinder Box.
It's very true. Very true. This is part 1 here that we're going to do the rating. So we rate the whiskey, which is the Issac Bowman port barrel finish, excuse me. And then we rate the cigar, which is going to be the Espinosa Sumatra. And then after that, we rate the pairing. However you guys would like to rate the pairing, this is all very much subjective here. So Tyler, start with you. Start with the Issac Bowman here.
So the Issac Bowman, it grew on me. Not bad.
Tastes what?
I really liked it. I'd probably go like let's go with a 6.5
Oof.
on that.
Jeez. Not bad, huh?
It's not bad. It's not bad.
What about the Sumatra?
Espinosa Sumatra. I'd say, let's see, where do I want to rank Espinosa Sumatra?
I don't know where you're going to go with it after that rating.
Yeah, your job may be on the line. No,
Is this table, are you nervous?
No,
I know, he's
I
shaking.
I feel like you're, like
I'm used to the other table.
it's fine.
It doesn't happen.
This is the travel. This is the travel
It
package
wouldn't be
here.
withdrawal if I was not. No,
The Espinosa
the
Sumatra.
Bowman.
Are you stalling or are you just
That's what I'm
distracted?
I'm distracted right
Okay, yeah.
now.
Jingling keys right here.
Let's go.
Out of
Espinosa
10.
Sumatra. Let's go 8.9.
Very specific, but okay.
8.9.
And
It's nice. It's medium. It's easy to smoke. It's just more my style's kind of the more heavier stuff.
okay.
So that's
All right.
fair. Most of the reasoning for that.
And the
but
Espinosa
when it comes
portfolio
to
is
like
getting larger and larger too.
And it's getting larger and larger,
Yeah.
right? And so, but I really like the stuff we've been doing more. This is a great way of us going in a different direction than what we have been. And but still, burns great. I really like this. If you haven't tried it, go out there and try it for sure.
Yeah, not many people have yet because it is very, very
Like
new.
you guys just got it last week, so that's how new
We
it
did,
is.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's put it that way. The pairing, I think the pairing's actually really good. There's a nice contrast with the spice from the Sumatra versus the sweetness of this with a little bit of spice on the back end, which I agree with after drinking more. It's funny how that works, right?
Funny how that works.
It's wild how that works.
Yeah, my pants
So the
not-
pairing, actually, I'll go solid 9 on the pairing. I think it goes. I think the
brings
contrast
up the
between
whiskey
it.
a little bit.
Yeah, I like the contrast in it. It works really well.
Had a fairly clean band.
That's a good band.
It's a nice band.
Yeah.
It's a real nice band.
I like the purple. I like the approach on the purple. Not too many people use purple.
I like the purple and white. Well, BS, oddly enough.
Oh,
Hey, looky
look
there.
at that.
I swear to God, if you use purple and orange, we got a problem.
All
right.
Hagen Horse already did that. So.
Oh, yeah. Ours is better. Looking. I don't know.
Shout out Kunal.
Frequent guest. Nate, go ahead with your ratings there.
On the whiskey, I'm gonna be a 7 on the whiskey. I think it's a solid bottle. Don't necessarily taste as much of that port barrel finish as I was anticipating.
Is that a good or bad thing? Do you want to, or do you
well,
want more?
It depends. Like when I first hear port barrel finish, my mind immediately goes to Angel's Envy. And I think because that's a little bit of a lighter whiskey that has less age on it as well, it's also 6 proof points lower.
Mhm.
I think
It's
that
also, same price?
that in the state of Ohio, that's $51. This is 43.
It's went up.
So it's but no, it's a solid bottle. But I think the age on this one being more that 7 to 9 year, the oak and the spice still come out as the predominant flavor, which is probably what they're going for because they want to highlight their juice. But I think because of those flavor profiles, the port barrel finish kind of gets lost a little bit. If we're able to save some of this, I'd probably go home and try this next to the regular Bowman Brothers.
Half a bottle of Old Forester 100 up there. So
I brought a second bottle too.
Even better.
Yep.
The party's always more fun with a second bottle.
Well, because the second bottle I brought's not something you can get regularly, whereas the second bottle Steve brought, you can get that every single day of the week.
What'd you bring?
2XO American Oak.
Never heard of it.
It's done by Dixon Dedman, the guy that created Kentucky Owl.
Nice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Stay on task here.
Right.
So 7 on the whiskey.
It's on the screen for Christ's sake.
Cigar, I'm gonna do an 8 on the cigar. Solid smoke. It's definitely got some flavors that I probably haven't gotten a lot in some Sumatra cigars in years past. Nice smooth with that little bit of spice on the back end. My only concern from a retailer standpoint is this going to get lost in with some of the other Espinosa lineup? Because even at my store, I push Espinosa pretty hard at my store because I love the brand. I smoke a ton of them. I'm trying to figure out where this would fall in to where it would also stand alone and not deter smokers who are already set in some of those other brands.
Maybe it hits the person that hasn't tried an Espinosa because some of them are a little bit out over the limit for them.
Well, I've got Crema, I've got Laranja Reserva, I've got Habano.
I should know my humidor.
So
or my selection at his humidor.
Customers, anything really. Yeah.
But no, it's still solid smoke. An 8's nothing to laugh at.
No,
because for me going over an 8, that's something that's really standing out. That's
tough.
Yeah,
tough critic over here.
Yeah. For me, getting above an 8, it's got to be something that really wows me. Yeah. This one here, when I first smoked it, and I was smoking it last year, I just love the creaminess, but also the body of that knuckle sandwich Connecticut. But still,
you said 7.5.
7 on the whiskey,
7,
8 on the cigar.
How are we pairing them up here?
On the pairing, I'm going to do an 8 on the pairing. Going from cigar to whiskey actually brings out more sweetness of the whiskey for me. Going whiskey to the cigar kind of brings out a little bit more of the spice of the cigar. So I think it's
spot on.
Yeah, I think it's a solid pairing.
Yeah, spot on with that for sure. With that, the back and forth for sure. For me, the Isaac Bowman port barrel finished, I like it. So that's why I was asking you, Nate, on that when you said you don't get as much of the port from that. Is that a good or bad thing? For me,
if you like it, then not getting a lot is going to be
what I'm getting at here.
Yeah.
So the Angel's Envy, they're just a regular Angel's Envy. I was never really sold on it, not because the whole thing, it's not real, whiskey or whatever, because it's finished or whatever. It's not that. It just was light. It was one of those things. I didn't get the hype behind it.
I still don't 100%.
I enjoy it, but I love the Angel's Envy rye.
Oh yeah,
love that.
$6 bottle.
I don't like the double the price.
Stuff is insane.
Yeah, they do some great stuff, and the regular Angel's Envy I do like. With this, I like the fact that I don't get as much of it. It's just a hint. It's in the beginning of the sip is that you get, I think, some of that sweetness from that.
But then the whiskey takes over on the finish.
The whiskey takes over, and then it finishes where I was saying earlier. It finishes with the spice, more of a traditional when you asked me earlier, the Buffalo Trace type, I mean, it's there. So I like that.
Which is interesting because I think a lot of finished bourbons go the other way. You taste the bourbon up front and then that finished barrel on the back end. This is going the other way.
The finish on the barrel is on the finish of the cigar or the drink.
The drink, yeah.
Typically, this goes the other way.
I think it goes the other way. You do have a nice little. So I did I rate it? I didn't rate it yet.
Not yet.
I'm going to give the bottle an 8. I like this bottle. I think for a $40 price tag, I think you've got a solid, enjoyable, a little different. I think
not readily available.
Unfortunately. Yeah, I'd like to see some of these, especially the $40 price range, the average price range. I'd like to see more of them readily available. I don't think this one has a big secondary.
No.
That's not the reason for it. It's just not readily available. Yeah.
I mean, they're not a huge, even though they're owned by Sazerac, it's still a distillery in Virginia. That's not a huge operation.
Understood. And I mean, like I said, I was in Chicago a couple times in the last year or so, and we saw the Bowman brothers. I don't recall seeing this, but this is something that's just
seen Isaac Bowman.
I think it's a solid sipper. I think you enjoy it. I mean, it's not necessarily like something you always have on the bar, but it's something nice to have, and you can sip on it and not feel too guilty about not only the price tag, but it's a nice, clean drink.
And I think the first time Carfagna's got this, we got one case and sold it just on Saturday, all 6 bottles.
Yeah.
And then the next time we got it, we had 2 cases. And I want to say that took maybe 3 or 4 weeks, but that's because it was on the shelf with the rest of the bourbons. It wasn't behind the counter with all the new releases and allocated stuff. So it wasn't getting
Funny
as
how
much
that works.
Yeah.
Let me finish my ratings if I could here. So the cigar, I'm going to give it a solid 8 as well. So I'm an 8 and an 8. The cigar, I kind of with you guys, it's not my normal. Like it's not going to become necessarily a go-to, but I do like the cigar. I do like the even though it's marketed, as I was saying earlier, it's marketed as a Sumatra cigar. That I think you guys might start really seeing more of going forward because you already see Corojo, you see Maduro, obviously, you see Connecticut, you see all these things. The Habano's a big one.
Yeah.
You don't see many that are going to be branded as Sumatra. So
Right.
I think I would predict going forward, especially if you guys have success with this, you're going to see some copycats coming out there, or at least even more so boasting that it's a Sumatra wrapper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Whether they put it on
everybody's
boxes, bands, everything.
because it's kind of from a branding standpoint, I think it is a somewhat of an untapped market. Not utilizing it, but naming the cigar Sumatra, that's a little bit untapped in my opinion. And like I said, Glenn Case with Christoph is one of the first that I recall really pushing it out there as one of his blends.
As the branding.
As the branding.
And
that's
he,
what I'm saying.
he even used a red band on that cigar, which typically that wrapper, you have a little bit of that red hue
and that's
to
what the Edge Sumatra has as well as a red band. So it's
is that lighter or darker? Edge Sumatra. That's a darker
one,
right?
a little bit darker.
A little bit darker than this. So with the pairing, I'm going to keep it with the 8s. I'm an 8 across the board. I like this pairing. I agreed with Nate. I'm not going to reiterate that, but I did like the way that it goes back and forth, right? It's an enjoyable pairing. You got a little bit of a spice from the bottle. You got a little bit of spice from the cigar. So that's kind of a lingering. When you set them both down, no matter if you do whiskey to cigar, cigar to whiskey, I think you get a little bit of that kind of, got a nice little warmth from the spice on your tongue, from the palate, as you just kind of sit here as we're talking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you pick it back up, the thing I like about the pairing is that when you pick up either the cigar or the whiskey, you start all over again.
Yeah.
It changes a little bit, you know what I mean? As you get into, like you were saying, you know, as most do, as you get through a cigar, as you get a second pour or whatever you might be, I think you're going to get a little bit, you start over again. As Tyler drinks that, you get a little bit of sweetness again, and then you let it kind of progress, and then it kind of nice sits that warmth, at least on my palate. I don't know if you're getting that or not. But
I just did that, and I got exactly what you just said.
And see, I like that because sometimes it changes it completely. And by the time you're midway finishing a cigar, you're on your second glass, it could change for the better. These guys have really kind of stood up throughout the first part of this. And I like that. I think that's a solid.
Neither one's been muted.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't overpower either side. And at the same time, it complements just enough because of, I think, really to kind of really emphasize that they complement each other on that kind of lingering finish of a spice on it, which I like.
Yeah.
And I do think, I will say that the whiskey, I think enhances that finish of the spice of the cigar.
Yeah.
Because up front by itself, it's more in the retro.
And I think it
ale.
also helps the fact that this whiskey's only 92 proof. It's
When
not,
I read
absolutely.
that bottle
Yeah.
and it said 92 proof, I'm like, this is gonna work like a dream.
yeah,
Because I think they both just balance.
because
each
I
other.
hadn't smoked this cigar before. Steve had, and I had sent Steve a bunch of pictures of bottles I had in my
Yeah.
cabinet to bring on, and this is the one that he decided.
Yeah.
Hey,
I think that was a great choice. Steve.
Yeah.
Well, and I hadn't had the bottle, but it just seemed,
Neither had I.
yeah. So it's fantastic.
I'm gonna upgrade my Isaac Bowman to 7.5.
From a
I think
6.5 to 7. Oh,
6.5 was a little rough. on
Steve.
that.
Steve.
I felt
Steve
bad.
influenced
I
Tyler.
felt bad after I
Call
said
being
it.
a good salesman.
I felt
Right.
bad after a while saying that because I'm actually really enjoying this
Are
pairing.
you upgrading your rating because of guilt?
No.
Or because you actually like it
No,
more?
because I actually like it more. 100%.
Sure.
Yeah,
No.
third glass will do that.
6.5. After I sat back and thought about it, I'm like,
Well, yeah,
That was
we
way
had
too
one.
low.
Yeah, we had
That
one
was way
person
too
comment goes, "Man, 6.5 is like one step above a dog turd."
yeah. Let's
Ooh.
go with this. Let's go with a 7.5 on that.
We'll check back in on your rating in the middle of part 2. See if it's still 7.
What is the? We didn't
It might
talk.
go up to 8.
Just
It might bump up to 8.
We didn't talk retail on the cigar.
So the retail is going to be coming in, I would say, almost average Espinosa prices at the moment, which is going to be. Go ahead.
So MSRP for the Robusto, the one we're smoking, is 11. Toro 11.50, 6x60, $12 even. So nice price point anymore.
Average
for
price
a new-
point.
for a new brand. It's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Somehow the Espinosa Habano, especially in that round Toro size, it's
$10, $9.99, $9.95,
yeah, I think
somewhere
it's going
around
to be
there.
creeping up.
$10.
Everything's creeping up right now. So everyone, Espinosa, I don't know. I haven't seen it myself yet, but I think across the board that we're going to see another year, unfortunately, of some price increases across the
Mhm.
board. Everyone's varying. Obviously, some are able to sit on some blends
Yeah.
or minimize on some blends, and then other ones are going to be going up. I mean, I've seen a company just recently. It's like these blends are going up 5%. These blends are going up 7%. It's like you see some fluctuations there for sure.
Yeah,
And that's
the
just
way,
a part of
the
it.
way the industry's going at this
It's a
moment.
part of it.
but I
It's getting
think
more expensive.
right now that Espinosa Habano round Toro coming in like
Right around 10.
with
Right.
Ohio OTP and shipping and stuff built in.
Yeah.
Like at Carfagna's, I'm at $9.99 a stick. I think that's the same thing here
Right
at
now,
Tinder
yeah.
Box.
Yeah.
I think that's a dynamite stick for that price point.
Absolutely.
I agree.
All right, guys, with that, I'm going to round out part 1 here, and stay tuned for part 2. We're going to do a quick intermission, but guys, happy Whiskey Wednesday. Tyler, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
That's nice. That's real nice. See you in part 2. Gonna take a quick break, guys. We're gonna we'll go backstage. Let's see the logo here for just a few minutes, and hopefully you guys will stay tuned. Be right back. What?
Do we want them to turn off the store lights?
We will see.
It's gonna be on mute with the background on.
Oh yeah, still looks good.
Look
Yeah.
at that.
As good as it's going to get with us on here.
Ain't
All
that
right.
the truth?
It's all right. It doesn't look bad.
Yeah, you still don't see that little flicker like you do in the laptop.
Yeah.
I don't know why you see that on the laptop. Not on that.
I think it's the audio going through whatever their streaming is there.
Oh. What's
All right. You guys want to get started? I'm going to pour a little bit more here.
Mhm.
Do you want me to grab the old Forester instead of yours, you said?
No, we can grab mine.
Sip on it? Yeah.
sweet?
We're good at the moment. Oh, you want to? How much do you want to save? You want to pull that?
Well, we can.
It's yours.
XO. This one's 92 proof as well.
Oh, interesting. See how this goes with the Connecticut. The American oak blends bold notes of vanilla, caramel, and caramel arise from the secondary addition.
Thanks for staying with us, guys. We just, adjusted the lighting. Someone took a bathroom break. So, yeah.
Not me.
Oh, we're unmuted?
No, yeah, we're unmuted. We're still live.
You're live.
Ah, beautiful.
Yeah, someone said, what happened?
And then she deleted that comment.
So can I pull this up here? Yeah.
Another
You wanna
beautiful
change-
day in Columbus, Ohio.
You want to change banner?
David Banner.
David Banner.
Eric Banner?
That works too.
All right, you guys ready for part 2?
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Chrissy says, why do you got to call me out? Now I'm calling her out by saying that.
Don't worry. Don't worry. This part will be on the live feed still, but it won't be on the audio.
Beautiful. If anyone out there wants any good future NBA bets, Indiana Pacers,
Nope.
winning the NBA Finals.
Reggie Miller still on there?
No, they just got my Siakam from the Raptors, who was almost as integral in them winning the finals when Kawhi Leonard was there, as much as Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
That dude was a monster.
I don't-
think it was a
I have
rookie,
no
too,
idea.
that
I don't
year.
watch any of that anymore.
it's-
It doesn't hold my attention.
You know, I get to go to a lot of Pacer games and stuff like
That's
that.
nice.
And I'm not a Pacers fan by any means, but I do enjoy watching them play. They're actually a really cool young team.
Yeah.
And it sucks whenever they got to play the Cavs. They've had the Cavs number lately, but we'll see them in the playoffs hopefully.
There you go. Indiana Pacers to the win the finals.
To win the finals, yes. Indiana
go.
Pacers are bringing back a championship to Indianapolis for the Colts.
You heard it here
Heard
first.
it here first.
Tyler Jones betting. I was going to say expert, but that's not right.
Nostradamus
Trevon.
Jones. There we go.
Jeez.
Nostradamus Jones.
All right.
I heard he was a good guy.
Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 301, and this is part 2, Beyond the BS, and we are still smoking. No, I'm the only one still smoking. The featured cigar, Espinosa Sumatra. If you guys,
Hard through it.
you did, yeah. No, I'm
it was,
almost done.
It was a quick. It was a.
I'm almost done.
Yeah.
Great cigar. Check out part 1 if you guys are just listening live, or if you clicked on the audio and you're just on part 2 here. Part 1, we were featuring the Espinosa Sumatra, which is a brand new cigar from Espinosa Cigars. We're still joined by Tyler Jones here.
Hello.
The on the road. We're out of the garage here for those just tuning in. Looks a little different here, a little tighter.
I like it.
It's definitely warmer
It's definitely
yes.
warmer
than
than
what we would have been.
It's 66 in here.
I got my Darius Rucker collection Steelers camo jacket with the fur on the inside in my car.
Yeah.
Just in case we were gonna go lunatic.
We can do part 2 in the garage if you guys want to move it.
Nope.
Okay.
I'm good here.
No, we're actually at Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio, where this podcast is based out of, one of our sponsors. So thank you, Tinder Box at Easton, not only for the sport, but now the on the road studio.
Yeah.
So thank you, Brian Joyce,
It worked
for
out
allowing
beautiful.
this
Thank
to
you,
happen. We do have a live audience here, so we'll see if anyone wants to comment in. If you guys
Sorry about
please
the carpet.
like, review, share, and all that stuff too as well. So check out our sponsors, Tinderbox Easton, as I said, and then also Altus Cigars, Altus USA. Bring up that banner here. Altadis USA.
Now I got that David banner
Jesus.
in my head. I got that in my head right
Altadis USA, thank you for the support. Normally, you have the banner behind us in the garage in our home studio. Normally, we smoke a cigar in part 2 from Altadis USA. Tonight, we're going to be smoking another one from Espinosa just because they are so gracious to support this episode. And we're going to be smoking the Knuckle Sandwich, Connecticut for part 2 here.
Yes.
I'm going to light that up. Nate's lighting up now. You're already lit up. I also want to thank BS Cigar Company. You see the logo behind us right above between Tyler and myself here if you're on the video. And BS Cigar, the silver is made by Espinosa.
Yes.
Pepper Bomb, great cigar, all
Great
Nicaraguan.
full-bodied cigar. Beautiful. If you haven't tried it, come give them a call or
stop by if you're in the area.
by.
And then the Gold is made by Plasencia, great medium body blend, also all Nicaraguan. So great cigars from BS Cigar Company. Thank you for the support there. If you guys want to support us also, you can also buy some good swag. Nate and I both have on the Barrelhead Bourbon and BS logoed black camo hoodie, and that's going to be available on buyjack.com/bourbon and BS. And you can find some other t-shirts, ladies, deep V's, and you can find some 3/4 sleeves as well. BS Cigar Company podcast, all over that stuff. So check that out. Shipped right to you as you guys order. And also check out our Patreon. Thanks for the continued support from everyone on the patreon.com/bourbon and BS podcast. And everyone that will throw that one-time contribution also on Venmo. It's at Bourbon and BS. If you guys want us to grab a certain bottle or a certain cigar, whatever you guys want to contribute, help us out.
What
we
a service.
appreciate that. It's great.
You give the people the voice and the ability
Give them what they
to
want.
contribute.
And it
Yeah.
keeps us doing this, which is nice too.
I
It's
noticed you threw the
And-
sweatshirt on. You kind of got a little chilly with
Well,
the
just
three-quarter sleeve.
because the shop's closed now, and so some people were leaving, open the door, that cold air kind of that 18-degree air outside or whatever
it's
it
not
is.
warm outside.
No, it's
No,
not.
not
It's
at all.
not warm outside.
Yeah, I
I
can.
mean,
feel
I
it. I
still
can feel
got-
it a little bit.
I still got my long johns on.
Of course you do.
Shout out Aaron Rodgers.
What?
Yeah,
What?
he'd always wear like the lawn johns when he played in the cold in Lambeau. You never remember? He was always on another
I'm
level.
not a Packer fan.
He was like another level. You always should know he played very well against you guys over in Chicago. Especially.
I mean, they
when he was wearing
won.
the long johns and stuff.
They won. We also broke his collarbone, so how
Shout
about that?
out.
Yeah, shout out Bears defense.
Was that
Put him
Lance
on
Briggs who did that?
Proud, yeah, I think it was
Probably
actually.
was
Yeah.
Lance Briggs.
Part 2 tonight, we go a little bit off the normal bourbon or cigar podcast. We talk about life or just talk about whatever. Nate's laughing at
We're about
comments.
to
I hope.
figure it out.
Figure it out.
Figure it
I'm
out.
laughing at Kristen's comment.
Okay, I've got this up here, so I'm interested
Gross,
to see.
What did I say? That was gross.
I don't know. Oh, Aaron Rodgers.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
probably one of the grossest things you can ever say.
To a Bears fan.
Well, to Kristen.
Oh, okay.
We're going to talk about figure it out. So yeah, Tyler asked me what the topic is and says figure it out. So what and I'm going to kind of go into a little bit of a scenario. Last week or 2 weeks ago, it was the internet at my house that I was dealing with. Well,
Yeah.
let's talk about round 2 tonight. But I'm going to frame this conversation as I'll read what's on there if you guys didn't read this here, but critical thinking seems to be a thing of the past. Everyone talks about like common sense doesn't exist. I think critical thinking is something that doesn't really exist as much as it should right now because it's not taught. It's just not taught anymore. I think a simple roadblock can shut down a process, whether it be mentally, professionally, or physically. It's something that can always be worked out by figuring it out head on. It's kind of the framework of this. And what kind of brought this up to me.
Kind of how this happened tonight.
Kind of, yeah, this is one of those things. The show must go on if we can, and I'm glad we're doing it. But where we're at right now, thankfully, has some heat.
Thank God.
We had some issues. This is a newer unit, and let me just kind of walk you guys through this. It was a new HVAC unit for this part of the building for Tinder Box at Easton.
Yeah. Just for you
And,
guys?
Yeah, so
Wow,
yeah,
nice.
we're
You
responsible
have the
for that.
exclusive. Nice.
Yeah, so put in a unit. Obviously, we were sold. We're not HVAC professionals, but this is what they recommended and everything like that. Very kind of traditional, but it's a newer style unit from Lennox, is who makes it. And I'm not
Shit,
going
we're
to name.
about to put them on blast.
Not even that. It's so. What was really frustrating to me is that it's had some problems as we got into this winter season. It blew a fuse. It found out. So like we didn't have heat. They said it blew a fuse. So then it's like, okay, we're going to replace the fuse. And it's like, well, what caused it to blow a fuse on a less than 1 year old $20,000 unit.
I don't think that happens on a regular basis.
Should
it? It probably does, but should it?
Stay tuned. So then they replace the fuse. They say it's an electrical problem coming into the building. No real solution on what to do about that. They just say that's what's going on. So then they replace the fuse, and then the circuit board that controls the defrost aspect of the unit, that goes out. So then we have heat. We're without heat again within a month. So they come out and they fix that. Then within a week, no heat again. They come out and they look, it's the blower motor. This is all, again, less than a year-old unit. And so they're like, well, what's happening again? It's electrical voltage variance is coming into the building.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to replace that. They start talking about some sort of like a surge protection or something like that.
Oh, something's going to cost you more money.
Yeah, so it's
crazy
doesn't
how
come
that
on
works,
the unit,
huh?
but they're blaming the electrical stuff. At no point do they offer to like address that part of it, but they're saying we might have to add some parts to it. This is where it really gets a little bit dicey for me. They come out this last Saturday and they say it was the blower motor. Okay, and they
Again?
said, no, this is what I'm talking about. This just happened. So this last Saturday it was a blower motor, and so they said, well, I ordered the part. It should be here Tuesday, hopefully, as long as transit goes well and we don't have any delays. So we're going to be without heat the whole. No solution, mind you. No solution on you're going to be without heat
On Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday.
Yeah.
4 days. So I wake up Tuesday preparing for this is the day, and around 8:30 I get a text from the salesperson, because I'm going to sales, not just service. I'm going to salesperson.
Yeah.
And he texts me. He says, we're finding the part, and as soon as we find it, we'll get a tech out there to replace it. This is the day that they were supposed to come out with the part. Whole weekend had gone by, no communication. The day it's supposed to happen, hey, we're finding the part. Not the way to word it, to me, in my opinion.
Yes.
Yeah,
Because as soon as you said that, I'm like, why are you finding it?
Is it fucking hiding from you?
You ordered it.
Right.
Is it like you guys play hide and seek with your fucking inventory?
Right.
Like this is where it really kind of like I was like that already. The way you word that is like you could have said that on Saturday night,
right.
Sunday morning, any day, time Monday. No, the day it's supposed to be installed. Now you're telling us that, oh, we're finding the part. And I said, what does that mean? This is all through text at that point. What is this? What does it mean finding a part? Does that mean it's not going to be repaired today? What's going on here?
Yeah.
This led me to say I would like to set up a call at 10 a.m. with you, service manager, your boss, anyone that needs to be involved in this call to find out what we're doing with this problem and going forward.
Right.
So then I had a call with the salesperson and also the service manager, and there was no solution. This was, we can't find the part. There's not that they don't have a blower motor for that unit because it's a newer unit for Lennox. And so they don't have a inventory of replacement parts. And so we're waiting to hear back from Lennox. Do you have a question?
So the unit got installed a year ago, and
less than 8 months ago. Let's call it. Let's go with 8 months.
8 months ago, the unit got installed, and you're telling me that in the span of the last 8 months, they that's too new of them to actually have parts in case. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood. My hearing's bad, so I wanted to make sure I understood that.
It's not that bad.
So they could have just took that part from another existing.
So I expressed frustration with the fact that it's like they keep blaming the electrical part. They don't offer a solution for that. They said they were going to have a part now. And I told them, I tried to explain to them. I said, you have to understand, this is costing, like, not only it's like it's 40 degrees when we walk into a retail area that also serves as a lounge.
Yeah.
So you have that part of it. We have guests. So you're costing us business at this point.
Right.
Let alone, and this was later in the conversation that I brought up, the fact that, like, we have, I'm not going to say how much, but we have a high value of inventory that the ideal conditions is 70 degrees and 70% relative humidity. We're pumping up the humidity to try to get that relative humidity there, and we luckily succeeded through that time. But I said, so we don't know when we're going to get a blower replacement part? And we're waiting to hear back from them. I said, so you're just sitting on your hands over there waiting for the phone to ring? They didn't like that.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
Now they don't like it. Now they're like, oh yeah, we're literally the salesman's like, oh yeah, we're just eating Sundays over here, Steve. We're just not doing anything. I said, if that's how you want to respond to this, you can do that. But like, I mean, you have to understand here is that you haven't given me any timeline of what's going on here other than you're waiting for a phone to ring. What if the phone doesn't ring for another 2 weeks? Are we just like, when do we rip this thing off and put something that's going to actually work? I said, I'm got you guys basically on speed dial at this point because it's breaking and it's less than a year old. Like, you've been out here. This is 4 times something's broken in 6 weeks on a new unit that we spent tens of thousands of dollars on.
Right.
What brings me to this part of it, fast forward through all that stuff, by 3 p.m., they found a rescue motor at another vendor.
Did they?
They sure did.
They sure did.
3 p.m., the heat was back on. Granted, in the process, they replaced a fuse. And I said, is that the same fuse that blew 6 weeks ago? He's like, yep. I said, did we order the surge protection part of it? I don't know. I said, want to find out? Because you just put a part in there that it could blow tomorrow.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I'll check with my service manager. In the meantime, this is where the critical thinking part comes in. So part of me is like, they're blaming it on the electrical coming into the building, right?
Yeah.
Which, mind you, we share with 2 other tenants. No problems.
Right.
Which, mind you, we've been here for almost 25 years, have never had that problem again. So I call our operations guy at Easton, which is the mall, and I explain it. He's like, no, we haven't had any more complaints on that. I said, is there any way that you can send out someone to take a look at this? So in that, between the span of the 10 o'clock call and 3 p.m., really in a shorter period, about 45 minutes later,
You had a tech from Easton out here?
an electrician.
Oh my God.
I called the service manager and I said, hey, I'm going to put you on speakerphone. I've got an electrician out here because you guys are saying it. And you guys had never offered this solution to rule out what's going on with the electrical problems. I've got one right here that he's been working with Easton for the last 20 years. So he knows the area pretty well. I said, can you just, he's ripped off the circuit panel. No problems. What else should he be looking for? That was the big turning point.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So this is what brings me on to the critical thinking. Tyler, you with your job and sales and stuff like that, when you have a problem come up and the really from them professionally, I started looking at it as like, if I was their boss and I got a call from a customer like Tinder Box, and they said, they're basically telling me they're just waiting on this. I have no heat. It's going to be negative this week. And their only solution is to hurry up and wait. I would be asking these people, well, did we get an electrician? Is it actually electrical problems?
You're right.
Is it something else? What can we do to provide this at least temporary solution so they don't have to shut down their business or lose a lot of inventory because of this?
Yeah.
There's just no thought behind it. Because to them, not saying that they weren't, because I think they were frustrated from the manufacturer side.
But they kept pushing
then,
blame off.
It was just like, yeah, no, we'll figure it out. And I'm like, can you tell me how?
Right.
What's the action item plan here, boys? And that's where when I started checking things off for them, because I believe that I have some sensible critical thinking skills and processes, now all of a sudden the problem's fixed.
This reminds me so much of a couple weeks ago with the internet.
Yeah.
Like
doing their job.
Yeah.
What is going on with this? It doesn't always have to be about this rant. I just thought it was very, very good way to kind of to springboard this conversation when you deal with customers, you deal with problems, you know what I mean, as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Is that why is it that we hit a roadblock and it's just like, well, I don't know what to do now. I'm waiting on someone else to tell me what to do.
It's a very good point. I could tell you're kind of upset about it.
Well,
it's frustrating to me because it's one of those things that it affects a lot of people. Sometimes your lack of action will affect things a lot more than your call to action or what you actually do.
Right. Actions speak louder than words. 100%.
It does. Absolutely.
Yeah. The guy was never going to give you a solution to whatsoever.
We'll never know if that would have been fixed that quickly if I didn't have that conversation, if I didn't get an electrician out here, if I didn't address the problem, if I didn't just, because there are people out there that they would have gotten that text say, hey, we're finding the problem. We're finding your part on the day it was supposed to be installed.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, just let me know. Now they're just sitting waiting on them while they're waiting on someone else.
Right. Yeah.
But as soon as you confront someone about it, and I wasn't as animated about this, I was nice and then firm and then be like, guys, what are we doing? And they, as soon as you confronted them, their reaction was kind of what I expected.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit more aggressive than I thought it would be. And yet, at the same time, it was fixed that day. All of a sudden.
Yeah.
So
all of a sudden, someone got motivated to work a little bit. You know,
Tim, that's hilarious.
BP sleeve. I don't know what that means.
Blood pressure cuff.
Oh.
Slap the blood pressure cuff on Steve because his
Run
head
a little
is,
hot there, Tim.
his head is redder than a poodle pecker. I love the alliteration.
It's good alliteration.
poodle pecker. That's like a tongue twister, right?
Red Rocket. There we go.
We don't have to focus on the pecker there. Okay? What are we talking about?
We're talking about critical thinking here, fellas.
Yeah, that's not it.
This is not the critical thinking we're talking about here. No, it's wild that we live in a society where you really have to put pressure on someone to really get them to like actually like get motivated. Like that's like someone calling me up and being like, "Hey, you know, I got problems with this and this with your cigars," and I'm just like, "Okay," and then I do like absolutely nothing about it.
What do you want me to do?
And then they have to come back at me and be like, "I'm going to get rid of every single one of your cigars in my humidor if you don't do something for me or something like that." Then I'm like, "Oh, all right, now we need to get somewhere." Like I'd be a shitty salesman if I just said, "Oh, okay," you know. Like,
I mean, I used to have.
what kind of service is that?
I used to have someone in upper management when I was with AEP that if I came to them with an issue, they would always turn it back on me and say, "Okay, well, what do you think we should do?" And for a while, that would always kind of piss me off. Like, no, this is what I'm experiencing. You're in management. Your job's like to figure this shit out. Why do you want? If I have a problem and I come up with a solution, then what good are you?
Right. What's your
Like,
role here? You know,
like I'm sitting there bringing you an issue. I don't know how to address it in a way that doesn't get me sent to HR. So I'm asking you, like, how do we go about it? I think there are this day and age, I think there are too many people in management positions that if you come to them with a problem, they want you to have the solution instead of that manager. Like, I think that's part of a manager's position in some instances, maybe not all. Because there are some people that just bitch and moan just for the sake of bitching and moaning.
Right.
But at the same time, that person in management, like they are a manager of people. If people underneath them have an issue, that person should be sitting there going, "Okay, how can we resolve this because that manager, you know, has more of a bird's eye view of things. They have more input coming into the business than maybe that ground level employee. You know, they have more insights.
There's a part
maybe more experience.
Go figure it out, and then there's a point to where you need to, as manager, like tell them, like, "Listen, kid, this is what I would do in this situation. I don't know if you thought about it this way, but like, I've had to do that. Like, there's plenty of times that me and Jack had to, you know, talk some things through. Like, I'm like, okay, this is what I'm thinking. He'd be like, "Oh, slow down there, kiddo." He goes, let's take a step back and let's think about it this way." And he was right at the end of the day. I was wrong, type deal, and I'm not afraid to say that whatsoever. And that's part of growing as a.
Well, I think that's a big part of it. Is the growth part of it, right?
Yeah, the growth stuff.
That is something where, like, you know, Nate, you were saying. I think part of the growth is that as someone, I've been in management roles of different sizes, and
yes,
at the peak I had, you know, 120 employees underneath me with levels of that, and I learned a lot from that part of my career path, if you will, is because I did have a boss that at first it pissed me off when it was like, "Well, what do you think we should do? What do you think we should do about it?" Because I was going to them with a problem, and to me, I was like, I thought I maybe have thought about it, or I just don't know how to handle the situation. They try to walk, like, if you do it the right way, you try to walk them through. If you really can't come up with it, you can't come up with a solution, then you talk it out with them. But on the flip side of that, I had employees where I would leave for an hour lunch break and my phone would ring. And I got to tell you, most of the time,
it was something simple.
Most of the time, I would, out of almost a strategy, was if they called the second time, picking up right away, right? But sometimes they would call, and I'd call back within 5 minutes. So I assume no one's like on fire. You know what I mean? The building's not burning down or anything like that.
Or there's a couch stuck in the drywall.
Well, that happened too. But
I know.
I would call it mostly office stuff.
Yeah.
when I was in like the GM role, sales and marketing,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
all
yeah.
that stuff. But I'd call back and they'd pick up the phone. I figured it out. Never mind. I don't need you.
Oh.
So that shit.
Why'd you call me in the first place?
Because that's where when
They
you
wanted
were
to offload
explaining
the
that,
problem
Nate,
onto
I know
someone
that's not
else.
necessarily what you were getting to with that, but when I hear that with my past, it was more or less there were enough people coming into my office, just they didn't want to think about it.
Right.
They literally were like, "Hey, we have this problem."
It was like an
and
automatic.
if I
in their
just
head,
was like, "Yeah, just go ahead and do
SD.
this," it's like
They don't learn
it's
anything
like
from
a
it.
lot of our education when I was growing up. It was like you had to retain it long enough to put it on a test.
Yeah.
But if I ask you 6 months from now, the same type
You
of
would have
scenario,
no clue.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's where it was. It was like there's
Okay.
a little bit of a mixture there. Of like you don't want to just not like a manager not do their job or not try, but there is a bit of it. It's like, well, what do you think we should do before I tell you what I think? What's on what have you kind of gone through as far as this goes? Again, these are mostly problems that are not like, again, there's someone's got their, they're bleeding out in the warehouse right now. It's well, what do you think we should do about it? Like, I'm not like saying like, come on, like just get in the face. Like, you got to think, what do you do? What do you do? I'm not saying that.
It's like the military thing. The guys in your face. What do you think you should do now?
Do it. Just put them out of their misery. Let's just, no.
Quick word. Shout out to the legend, Michael Sauerbaugh, watching live from the Dominican Republic. Shout out to you, my man.
If he's watching, then Jonathan Herring has no excuse.
Exactly.
He's not, though, unless we're watching together.
Michael, where is Jonathan? Where is?
But my point is with that is that I think that's where we get to the roadblocks become crippling, because at no point has someone been challenged to figure it out on their own.
Right.
A lot of times growing up, and I was fortunate to have, parents that did do a lot for me as I grew up. Had the traditional, I'd say, Midwestern, Dorothy Crane's a saint, Midwestern mother that, did laundry, cooked dinners, all that stuff. I learned a lot from watching, but never had to do it. When I hit college, work after that, and that career, when I was living on my own, when I went through a divorce and then was on my own again, that's really where it's like I didn't have anyone to lean on. So now you're figuring it out.
Yeah.
And you kind of trial by fire type of a thing. You know what I mean? It's something where you're learning as you go, but I think there's something that you build some critical thinking skills at that point. If you don't have the answer book, then you got to figure it out. And that's where this whole thing with the scenario that I was just telling about. And again, 2 weeks ago is the internet. I'm talking to these people and someone's like, well, what? Remember, the whole thing was just a quick thing that the real sticking point in that was when I was talking to someone. I said, you sent me the wrong equipment. You didn't send me a replacement for what I had. And they said, well, what do you have? And I was first shocked they didn't have it in my file. But
couldn't look it up.
Number two, I immediately was like, okay, well, let's try this a different way. If I was signing up for,
that was such a great question.
If I was signing up for this internet plan that I have, and I said I wanted a modem and router that I want to lease from you, send me that. If I'm a new customer getting the service I have, and you can't find out what I have right now, the equipment that you guys sent me originally, and you sent me the wrong one, and you're asking me what equipment I need from you. If I signed up today and wanted it, and I had no equipment, what would you send me? Send me that.
Yeah.
She literally couldn't. She said, I'm going to have to call you back and figure out what equipment you have. It's like, these are those things where I'm just like, these roadblocks. It's like, I just told you, like, if I signed up today for this internet and I didn't have anything to do it, and you wanted me to be able to have your internet and you sent me the equipment, that's what I want.
Yeah.
And it was just like,
that reminds me when you texted me that one day. You're like, hey, I got our shipment. And we got 3 Crema Churchill. and then I texted you back.
I sent you a picture. I'm like, why'd we get?
I'm like, why do you have that? And he goes, and you're like, that's why I'm asking you.
Isn't that your job?
I'm on it.
That's exactly.
That's a great.
You pointed the finger yourself.
Right.
That's where we're at with that. But you learned from that, and you don't
100%.
work for me. But at that scenario, you're like, you started learning. You're like, Yeah,
I was still pretty fresh at that point, I believe.
probably shouldn't have asked him why he has the wrong shipment of what's on the invoice. I should have been like, let me look into that. I have no idea. Well, that makes two of us.
I'm like, why do you have that? You're like, great question.
I had one where you had, two different divisions of a department. Yeah, thank you. You had two different departments of a division, all reporting kind of to the same manager.
Wow.
And there were some people in one division that were having some issues. And just because of the kind of guy I am, like they would come to me and just kind of air out their grievances that they were having with people in that other department, which I was not in. It's just because we were friendly. And so they would tell me about what was going on. And so I would then go to the boss of both departments and be like, hey, I've been hearing some chatter. Like, this is what's going on over here in this department. And my manager goes, well, if they're having issues, they need to go to the person who's in charge of that department and they need to figure it out. If they can't figure it out, then they come to me and I find someone who can.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just the messenger. Why are you yelling at me?
Right.
You learned something that day, though.
Yeah, not to go to that person's problems. But but no, then I went back to the people from that department who were airing their grievances to me. And I was like, hey, this is what our director of these divisions said. Like, if you're having an issue with other people in that department, you need to go to the person who's in charge of that department and tell them, because they don't know that there's an issue. And that person's in charge of all of y'all.
Is that not unfortunately shocking to you that you have to say that to that person?
I think, well, and I'll
think about that.
And I'll say this, the two people that both came to me with that issue, both of them are older than me. So it's not like this was a young person's issue.
This is not an age or like age.
Yeah, this is not like
thing.
Yeah, for sure.
It was one of those where I think the issue that they were having, like, they had more concern about what would come to be if they brought it up to the person who was in charge.
Yeah.
Like they weren't entirely sold on that person providing a solution. And so, but instead they were just airing their grievances out to me, which if that goes on too long, then it just becomes gossip and that will absolutely destroy.
Have you ever tried calling a bank? It's like the most like mind melting thing in the world to me.
About what? I've had a card compromise that I've had to like talk to, and that was a similar type of experience.
Yeah, 100%. Something's like, I'm trying to get a customer to get an order, approved or whatever through the bank, and then they're like, oh well, let me put you on to like the business guy. You're talking to like the personal guy. I'm like, why can't the personal guy tune into this? Why do I have to go to the business guy, wait on hold for another 30 minutes
and then retell your story
and retell the story and be like, oh, you need to talk to the guy who's like the tobacco business guy. I'm like, I didn't know banks had tobacco business people.
I didn't either.
And you're like, no, that was just an exaggerated example.
They should, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And every shop should have that number to get to that bank. But it's like, it's mind melting sometimes. You're just going through this process. I mean, you just sit there and you're just like, oh, this is nice hearing, we will be with you shortly. And I'm like, that is the most annoying. They had the most god awful music with "We'll be with you shortly."
Purpose, I feel like, and I think that's a power move, and I think that there's some sort of sociological experiment behind how pissed off.
It is a power move because they know that you got your hands tied because they got your money.
Yeah. So speaking of that, just real quick, bank story is, I had my card compromised.
This is when it gets good.
I called the bank and I said, I need a new card. You said like, or no, it was press 1 if you did this, 2 if you didn't do this charge.
I love it when they list the options. You're like, that none of those are giving me.
No, this was a text message from Chase, and I said I hit 2. I did not buy GoPro camera for $500 in California. That was the text basically. So then they're like, we'll call you shortly. Got a call. Everything's going smoothly at this point. I'm like, they're looking out for me.
Yeah.
And then they said, you'll receive a new card in 7 to 10 business days. And I said, can I get that expedited? She's like, yeah, for $40. And I said, so let me make sure I get this right. I want to spend money on the card. So you guys are, I'm spending the money that I have with you guys.
Yeah.
But you're going to charge me extra money if I want to spend it tomorrow. How does that doesn't seem quite right. Like, I feel like you want me to use the card.
Right.
This is how you guys make money.
Of course.
Not off of my $40 surcharge for expediting a card that'll be here in 2 days.
Right.
I can spend money quicker if you send me the card quicker. Because this we'll waive that fee. Was the response. These are those things that I don't want to be like this asshole.
You'd be surprised how much banks make off of late payments and fees.
No, I know that, but like, to me, I'm like, I want, like, let me overdraft. Let me.
Right.
But I can't do that if I don't have a card.
Bro, I couldn't imagine losing like a debit card or a credit card like 20 years, like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, before like Apple Pay was a thing. Whenever you get like, so like when you have your card
20 years ago, everyone had cash.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And then like I lost my wallet, or my wallet was stolen. Either way, who knows what happened.
Lost.
And I lost it, and I go on my mobile app or whatever immediately, and I go, replace card, I need it, and they're like, okay, we have a new one on its way, it'll be there. And like you said, like 7 to 10 business days. I'm like, how am I going to spend money? Like, how am I going to live with no debit card? Because I don't have cash.
I got to pay bills.
I'm 26 years old. Why do I have cash? Thank God. Like, most of my accounts, like my card payment, all that stuff, just goes off my bank account, not my card.
Think about how many late fees if you were paying.
Oh.
Every time.
Yeah.
You had to go in there. You didn't have checks. You had to use your I have the money.
Right.
Debit card. And like, well, go to the bank. Well, say it's a holiday. Like, well, I can't go to the bank today. Like, there's so many of those little roadblocks again that you just have to get through that.
But like, if you have your Chase card, like on your, like this with Chase, if you have your card on your Apple Pay and you do that, it already gives you the new card on your Apple Pay, but you don't have the new card in your possession. Now, thank God I had the common sense to go up to an ATM, do like the tap, because now ATMs have the tap thing that you can just tap your phone to it and you can withdraw cash. Thank God I was able to do that, because I'm like, I'm going to starve for the next like 2 weeks or whatever. Now, granted, Espinosa would have took care of me. I could have used my business card. And
shout out to your employer.
Shout out to Eric Espinosa and Jack T, who improved everything. But yeah, I mean, it's like in that situation, I'm like, dude, 10 years ago when this didn't exist, or that Apple Pay thing only became in existence, what 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. So like, what would I have done before that? I would have been like just shit out of luck, just sitting on my ass waiting for this new debit card to come in the mail.
We're going down a poor rabbit hole in our society of relying on technology. And I will say that 2020 through 2022,
but you know what? I had to figure it out.
You had to figure it out. Could have starved to death.
It's
the first time you robbed someone. No, I think we've gotten worse.
Stole money out of my mother's purse.
No. Why would you do that? It's getting worse because of Apple Pay, because of that. We've had people even come in the store and it's like, you take Apple Pay? Yep. For whatever reason, the amount, whatever it is, it doesn't go through. If you could use, your card. Well, I don't have my card. Do you have another form of payment? No, I have Apple Pay.
Or for the record, I don't own check. I don't have a checkbook, so
or people that come in and like they look, under 30, and so we check IDs.
Yeah,
and we're like, yeah, I need to see an ID. I don't have my ID. Like, why are you leaving the house with like your credit card or debit card, but you don't even have your ID? Like,
that's a problem. And what I was getting at with
I carry my passport in my bag just in case.
Well, I have mine's at home, but I'm just saying, like, I have my ID with me, but I'm saying it's that the dead eyes that look back at you when you say like it's not, your Apple Pay is not going through.
Yeah.
And they just look at you.
They're like,
and I'm like, do you have another form? Do you have that card? Do you have another form of payment?
They're going back to their primal state.
And
they're just like, I'm going to beat the shit out of this guy and run.
No, they're not even that. They're literally the deer in a headlight. The car's coming and they're just like,
what?
So I can't use Apple Pay? Apparently not. So I can't buy this? No. Can you come back with the card. I don't have it with me. I know we established that. I don't say that. I'm not that big of a dick to people. You know, I'm not. Again, like, well, I tell you what, I'll hold these here if you want to. Like, I mean, do you live far? If you can come back, or whatever, like however long you need, I'll hold these cigars for you. I mean, we're not even selling like food here. It's not like you're gonna die.
Right.
Like I'm going out to the golf course. You're not smoking a day on the golf course. You might play better. I don't know what to tell you here, man. Like, but it's that the dead eyes, because again, sadly, there's no critical thinking, in my opinion, that no one can get past a small roadblock sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially my generation. They just get
You guys are all fucked.
Thank you for that.
Just kidding. No,
but
I
theoretically,
think
every generation said that about
you learn
the
it
new
more.
one,
Yeah, it's pretty classic, but I think it is part of that is that you do start when you run into that stuff, you do start figuring things. I think sometimes the hardships will like, not saying that's a hardship. You can't buy cigars. I'm saying when you run into like what you ran into, you're like, well, I normally buy food with my debit card. I don't have cash. I don't like some people don't even know where to go. Like the bank is on the card.
Right.
And they're just like, what do I do? Like, well, it looks like you have a Chase debit card. So if you have your phone on you, yeah, I do. Just Google Chase locations.
Right.
Okay. Oh, there's one right at the road. Go there. They might be able to help you out.
They might be able to.
They might even have your cash.
They might.
If you take a withdrawal, like, so what's on your phone? That number of your debit account? What the dollars? That exists somewhere.
It's crazy. Smoke. It's insane. Every time Nate takes a puff, it's in my throat.
Pulls it up.
So Mike Sourbaugh, by the way, Mike Sourbaugh is chatty as hell tonight. I love it. I've never seen this much participation.
Probably drinking,
man. I love it, Mike. It's a pleasure to hear you. But he did say cash is king. Yeah. I found
it is.
I spend less.
I still get people coming into Carfagner's like, you guys take cash?
I find out that I spend less money if I use cash than I do if I just use my card.
Yeah.
There's actually a psychology reason for that.
I might just start using strictly cash. Except when I go to like Colts or Pacer games because they don't believe in cash there.
I was going to say, you go somewhere communists. And I bring cash, but I still have my debit.
They're communists. They just want you to use that plastic. I'm like, get the hell out of my face.
Oh, I'll tell you. Comment on that.
So I think it may have been Johns Hopkins. They'd done a study at least a decade ago where they would actually hook people up to brain sensors and like they would pay with cash, they would pay with card. Yeah. And that was right when like chips were coming out and then the tap and stuff like that. And so they would register like what was going on in people's minds when they were paying in these different forms. And when people paid with cash, it actually registered as pain. So they were less likely to overspend, especially like if you get $100 bill, like there are people that want to hold on to that $100 bill. They don't want to break that $100 bill.
I was like 12.
And
that's true.
So like many of them, but like Christmas or something.
Oh, you got a $100 bill. You thought you're king of the world. You're like, what can I buy?
If they paid with cash, it registered as pain. When they paid with a debit card, there was a little bit less. If they paid with a credit card, it was even less. When they did the tap feature, it was like there was no correlation with spending money whatsoever. So they found that people that paid with a credit card would typically spend like 12 to 18% more than if they had cash.
I believe that.
So that's why you have a lot of banks that have started going to, not doing cash or doing taps.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, this is so easy. I can just tap my card or I just pay with my phone. And it causes people to overspend, which banks make more money. That's the whole point.
I went to a Pacer game, right? And
none of those places take cash.
No sporting event will take cash anymore. So I walk in there, right? And they're like, and there's like this little booth area where they have like a cooler with all the beer and stuff like that, and they got snacks and all this other shit in there.
It's concession stand.
You tap, you tap your card, you go through a turnstile, and you walk in there, you grab your beer, you just walk out, and somehow it knows exactly what you bought.
There was
I have no idea how that works.
I think the Amazon Fresh places were doing that, and Saturday Night Live, which say what you will about Saturday Night Live these days, they literally had one on there, and it was hilarious because it was.
And there's no pricing on anything either, so you have no idea how much you just paid for like a Miller Lite 12 ouncer or Tall Boy, whatever. And you're just like, and then you probably look later. I bet that was $18 to get that.
Kristen says,
Blue
but
light.
the points. She's all about the credit card points. Which I mean, there is some benefit to using some of these things.
Course,
I agree with that. I
wish I had an American Express Black card.
My thing about points. My thing about points, though, I'll say this: the way those point systems are typically structured, like you're spending so much money to get points that, like, when I talk about spending 12 to 18% more using a card, well, if you weren't spending that additional money, like you could just bank that 12 to 18% and pay for that trip way more than the points would get you. That
if you're that type of person, or if you use the card like you should, and it's like I can either pay with a debit card or I have it in that account. I'm just going to use this credit card and then pay the credit card.
But most people don't do it that way, and that's why banks and credit cards.
But you can.
But that's why their building's bigger than yours.
The points thing.
I agree, but thankfully I'm with someone that does it the right way, and that's why I've been to Cancun more than you guys have.
That's very true.
So,
that's very true.
How do you play
the points thing is the points thing is shout out.
Shout out.
The points thing is insane because like air miles, right? That's practically turned. If you want to be like the top dog, like air miles or whatever, you got to be like you have to get the air miles credit card now to even get like executive or whatever level you want to be like automatic first class upgrade, all this other
shit.
Jack complains to me every time we travel. He goes, I swear to God, these airlines are just credit card, just going crazy people now. And that's the only way you get like your automatic, your upgrades and stuff like that.
Well, they're smart with that because they stay with, like, you have to fly with
even hotels like Marriott's got their own credit card
that.
now. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I'm like,
we get Marriott points. Yeah, you should. No, I the more it gets automated, the worse we are. Yeah. And I think that's part of it, like the critical thing.
But it's happening, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. It's too late. It's too late.
You have to play the game. Yeah. But that's where it's like, that's why when I go out, I try to like have cash if I want to use cash, but I also carry my wallet because I'm an adult.
I carry my wallet.
I know I'm not, but I'm just saying a lot of, like we were talking earlier, it's like people like come in with like a phone and like Apple Pay, it doesn't work. All right, well, so I'm not getting my whatever it is. Just not getting it.
People not carrying their IDs with them is mind-blowing. Yeah, that's insane to me.
Blows my mind.
Because if you get stopped by the police, right, for whatever reason, it could be a random thing, it could be whatever, and you're like, I don't have my ID. That's a fine. Like, that's a ticketed offense right there.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather not get a ticketed offense.
But it's government control.
It's government control, man.
Don't you know me? No, I don't. That's why I asked for your fucking ID. Because I don't know you.
Dude, Bill Burr kills me whenever he talks like that. He goes, it's that, man,
Love me some Bill Burr.
Did you watch his movie on Netflix, Old Dads?
Love it. Yeah.
Because I watched it before you.
Is it animated or is it actually?
No, it's
the Old Dads. It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
Good.
But like
when did it come out?
A couple months ago.
Yeah, I watched it when it came out.
My Netflix account's been like,
probably because you're using that card.
Yeah. But I had messaged you that I had watched it, and you're like, oh, and like I told you a little bit of the synopsis about it, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to watch it because it's going to be like one of those kind of movies. Like, no, it's kind of going against that. Like,
it was commenting on it.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Credit cards have their place. All these cards have their place in the world. But we shouldn't just forget the good old. We shouldn't. Mike said earlier, cash is king. It's like, yeah, that's a legit. Cash rules everything.
Yeah. So going back to like the whole critical thinking part of it, that's part of it though. So it's not even critical; it's thinking, right? So the reason I think that a lot of these places don't do it, they don't have to. Like, you go to an arena, I will comment on that part of it. In my opinion, you don't have to have hundreds of cash drawers out there, right? So all you have to do is have your fucking little iPad thing there. And you don't have to trust employees with your cash. They have no control of it. Now all you have to do is you have to monitor your inventory, and then you bring up that point of and Mike said it was at Amazon Fresh or whatever it was, is that you walk in, you scan your thing, and you walk through, and somehow they know what you picked.
Right.
Which I was going to say, there was a hilarious SNL thing where it was like literally like, they were like talking about how great it was, like a commercial for Amazon Fresh. Yeah. You guys will look this up because it is kind of funny out there, and I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole, but they were absolutely throwing out the fact that it's like they had like suburban like white people going through there, and they're like, yeah, Amazon Fresh is great, and then they had like couple of the black actors going through, and they're like, so I just take things and then I leave. And there were a couple of them were like, I think it was Keenan, who's been out there for 28 years or whatever.
Keenan Thompson's hilarious.
I think it was him. He like literally had like a whole like basket thing. He's like at the front door and he's like looking around and he's just like,
I'm not gonna
I think he ended up just like leaving his basket. And he's like, nope.
I'm falling for it.
So, but the serious is like, you literally like, yeah, you don't need any of that stuff because it's easier. The self-checkouts, you don't need to pay employees. You don't need to do all this stuff. But I think that it goes down further down the problem there is that you can't even, you rely on the technology. So it's thinking in a sense for you.
Yeah.
But more importantly, not to get down the Terminator rabbit hole. It was like literally, it's not the AI part of it. It's like, you just don't have to think.
Yeah.
Like seriously, it's like when I was growing up, it was you had to be able to show your work, but you can use a calculator. It's like now, I use you say I'm not gonna say it because all my shit's gonna go off, but you say, hey, S word, and it's like you just ask them whatever. But we'll be sitting in here, and there'll be a whole old fashioned debate, like, how old is that celebrity, that coach, that player? And you're just like, I don't know. I think he's like, I don't know. That player's like, he's got to be like 36. I don't know. I think he's probably older than that, probably younger. And I'm just like, hey, S. And it's like, how old is Tyler Jones?
Right.
And it's like, Tyler Jones is 36 years old. And it's like, I just saved 5 minutes of everyone's life right now.
The one I like
so
is
there's benefit there.
Like when people are trying to sit there and go, how old is someone, or like what movie was it? I'm like, well, you have a Google. So why don't you
hit that up?
Why don't you figure
there's some benefit to it, but there's a lot of drawbacks.
Sure. We had a talk about like, you're worried about like people in arenas like pocketing cash and stuff like that, which I'm sure that happened plenty, right? Sure. I went to the movie theater Saturday, right? It was a slow Saturday. It was cold as hell in Indianapolis. It was like negative 15 degrees wind chill. My dumbass decided to walk to the movie theater, right?
Yeah.
So I'm right downtown.
What were you watching?
I went and saw the new Statham movie, The Beekeeper.
How good?
A little cheesy, but for a Statham movie,
so
it was
just like every other Jason Statham
movie.
It
was entertaining as hell, and the premise was awesome, right?
Yeah, good.
So I go up there, I pay for my ticket, and I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, I'll take a root beer with that, right?
Good choice.
The lady goes, if you Apple Pay me $10, I'll give you 3 items for free.
Like personally.
Personally,
cash at me,
bro. I did it in a heartbeat. He was like, Apple Pay. I'm like, oh, absolutely. I Apple paid her $10. I got like a large popcorn, a large root beer, and I got like Twizzlers.
Criminal minds awesome. Are better than most, and that is such a weak example of it, but that's perfect.
I'm like, that is hilarious. I'm like, I've never had.
She's got a side hustle going because she's making money, and it's not costing.
Man.
Like the theater's costing money, but they're going to make it up anyway.
Of course they are.
I feel like my
I was dying inside. I was keeping it in. I was keeping it cool. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. No problem. What's your phone number?
I feel like I feel like I would have either said, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Or I would have been like, "How about I just give you $10 cash?" And they probably be like, "No, I need Apple Pay." Right. I'm like, "Fuck you."
I'm
not at that point.
I was down.
If they said they didn't want cash,
that lady just saved me $10 because all 3 of those items probably would have been $20-something probably combined.
At a movie theater, probably like 40,
right?
Like all together. But I'm just saying,
like, how much is popcorn nowadays? I haven't been to a movie
like
theater.
$9
at least for small.
The last time I was at a movie theater, I think was the first Wonder Woman.
No, I was gonna say it was a silent picture, but
You're older. You're older than me. Fuck off,
dude. The Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah,
it was a Charlie Chaplin film.
It's great. No, I think I would have gone.
Beekeeper was good. I liked it a lot. Yeah. It was a fun premise.
I think I would have offered $10 cash.
I don't have $10 cash.
I know you don't.
26 years old. We've established this, Steve.
I feel like if I would have said that, it's like, will you take? Like, I'll give you $10 cash, and they probably would have been like, well, what do I want cash for? At that point, I'd be like, I need to speak to your manager. Not the fact that you proposed that we do this deal.
Listen,
but the fact that I was like, I'm going to give you cash, and then you're like, I don't want that.
Listen,
like,
I know that lady's making minimum wage working at that movie theater. If she really needed the $10 that bad, I'll fucking hook her up. It was my community service for the. By the way, this whiskey is fantastic.
Good.
Would you like to dive into that?
I saw real quick. I saw
a real
recently,
criminal activity is what you're doing.
Where it was one of those
theft. It is that.
It was one of those guys at an intersection, like comes around and washes your windshield and stuff. You know, you always have to go, oh, sorry, I don't have any cash. And he literally is holding up a credit card scanner. Like, all right, you can just go ahead and pay me here.
The tip. This is my Venmo.
Bro, I went
Venmo at Bourbon and BS.
So I'm just waiting for the day where there's some homeless person on the corner of an exit ramp or a street corner and be like, hey, you know, you can Venmo me money if you don't have cash.
It should already exist when you like they want money and you're like, here's a sandwich. Like, I don't want that. Why would I want to?
I've had that happen.
Oh,
I've had that happen.
Cool.
Oh yeah.
Listen, downtown Indianapolis, we have a problem with homeless people.
Yeah.
And they're getting bold, bro. They're getting bold, and they think they got some swagger. We need to start checking these homeless people,
especially the homeless people that are at the same corner for a year.
The same homeless people that says I'm pregnant, and then it's like, bro, you've been pregnant for 10 years.
How many kids do you have?
You're right, dude. I have a buddy.
Prove it.
My buddy tells me this. My buddy tells me this story. He walks. He goes to St. Elmo Steakhouse all the time, and this lady's posted up right in front of the St. Elmo Steakhouse, right? And she has this sign that says, you know, I'm pregnant, need money for my family and stuff like that. For like, what's that? They need some sort of solution or whatever for her pregnancy or whatever. As long as you could tell, I haven't been through one of those yet. So
thank goodness.
And so he's like, he goes by there. He's been going there for
a lot
like
of critical thinking if you went through that.
He's been going there for like 20 years, right? And he gave her money like the first like 2 months, and then he stopped giving her money. And he goes, lady, there's no way you're still pregnant after 10 years. And he goes, dude, I went back. I haven't been there in a while. He's like, I went back. She's still there. I'm like, how many new people do you have to like run into that have never seen your hustle before to actually give you money?
You could ask, you know, it's one of those things. I mean,
I want to ask her, be like, how much money have you made?
How many kids do you have?
Yeah.
And you say, what are their names? Kind of like the whole Goodwill Hunting thing.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I thought of as soon as you said it before you said the movie.
They are not Matt Damon. They're not Will Hunting. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They're not going to name off all 9 kids, all 9 brothers.
You had to think about your kids' names?
Yeah.
See, even Mike Dieter said downtown Indy is getting real sick.
Yeah,
dude, it's a wild time, and all of a sudden, homeless people are gone because it's cold as hell. I just walked downtown like the last 4 days, and I'm like, I haven't seen one homeless person at all. I'm like, where did they all go?
It's cold, man.
There's been some undercover stories about some of those people that have made news waves.
We need some solutions and a lot of them are like getting like chippy with you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, hey man, you have any spare change or anything like that? Sorry, bro. I'm sorry. I don't have any cash on me or change on me. And then the guy goes, well, fuck you. And I'm like, excuse me. I went into Bern one night hot because I was told this twice on my way. I live a mile away from Bern by Rock Hotel, right?
Yeah.
I walked a mile from my place there. And I had 2 homeless people to tell me to fuck off because I didn't give them money.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, these guys are getting bold as hell, bro. They're getting bold. You're cutting yourself a little bit.
No, it's the cold weather.
Yeah, I noticed that earlier.
Punching shit at the gym.
Don't ask questions, all right?
Yeah.
You know.
Kristen, are you okay?
Why do you guys got to go there? First of all, she was out of town. I have an alibi.
Blink twice. To your point,
they're getting bold. Anyways, yes, let's go on the whiskey.
So
away from the homeless talk.
The second bottle I brought, this is a 2XO. It's done by Dixon Deadman. As I said earlier in part 1, he is he was the creator of Kentucky Owl.
Okay.
So
very good stuff.
The reason it's called 2XO is everything he does is he's taking bourbon and then aging it in secondary barrels. And then
cognac?
And then no. Well, they're different every time. So
because XO is
XO cognac or XO
that's affiliated with a bunch of.
It literally stands for extra old.
Oh, learn something new every day.
VSOP stands for very superior old pale. So there's age requirements to meet those.
What's pale?
That's just the term.
It's lighter shade.
Yeah. So anyway,
idiot.
So 2XO. So like this one right here is the American Oak. So what he's doing is he is taking bourbon barrels and he is finishing it in secondary barrels that are of different char levels and then blending that together.
Interesting.
This comes in at $49.99. which is
Really?
actually the least expensive of all his releases.
I pay $50 for that all day.
It's a nice flavor.
Absolutely.
Very oaky. Not just because of that, but yeah.
Presentation's clean too. I like
and
the
so-
presentation on that.
Well, yeah, and so all the labels have that basic label that you see at the top. This one having that secondary label underneath with the blue where it says American Oak.
Yeah.
That's different. Usually it's just one label that covers the length of what both of those do on this bottle.
Yeah.
And last year there were a couple different iterations of this that came out, and like one of them was he took the same product and split it into two different level 3 and level 4 chars and then blended that all together. So this one's $49.99. The two of the other iterations that came out last year were both $100. And then there's another one that is called the Gem of Kentucky, where it is
I think I've seen that.
it is a high rye bourbon that is finished in other high rye bourbons as well, but then blended together and then bottled at barrel strength.
Did you say whose juice it is, or do they not?
He doesn't disclose.
Of course not.
who he
Jake
sourced it from.
Tucker, more bourbon
But-
fuckery over here.
Easy.
So this one's $49.99. Two of the other iterations were $99.99. The Gem of Kentucky's $199.99.
Getting up there.
Yeah, but people that know who you. I mean, $200 for some of the other Kentucky Owl products, like you can't scratch some of the other Kentucky Owl products for $200.
Oh yeah, that Kentucky Owl stuff's expensive. There's like one bottle that's like green. It's like St. Patty's Day color. I think it came out, and it's like 40 or something like that.
Well, so he came out
Or
with
it's a lesser. It's
or
a lesser
I shouldn't say he, but Kentucky Owl had come out with another brand called the Wise Man, and those were both coming in around $50 for the bourbon and the rye.
Yeah.
Okay.
But a lot of the Kentucky Owl was starting at like 130,
Yeah.
it's
and then
expensive.
Say
going up to like
150.
$300, $500.
Every time you see Kentucky, it's like Old Saint Nick. Every time you see a bottle of Old Saint Nick, it's like expensive as hell. You're just
Yeah.
like,
I don't always get it, but I mean, it's
I mean, I've never had it before. Don't act like I'm like some high elitist or something. I'm drinking Kentucky Owl or very old Saint Nick.
very
or something.
defensive. You're very defensive. Right
I mean,
now.
I felt like that was a shot at me. Like, well, I see it.
Like I
but
said, you're very
never-
defensive. I
I've
don't
never
know why I do it.
I've never bought it either.
But no, this was one that when Carfagna's got this last week and we put it out, like
This was last week.
yeah, we had this in the store on Friday.
Oh wow!
When did
And-
you
That's
get this
new.
bottle?
Huh?
When did you get this bottle?
Friday.
Good work.
Yeah, you're
He likes it a lot. I think
I shared it with some other
it's
people.
like you liking the Traveler, pal.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I did share this with some other people. I poured some into a sample bottle and
you don't
took
have
it,
to, you know,
yeah, and
don't
shared it with a few. But
fine. You enjoyed it.
but no, like last year at Carfagna's when I saw all the other Dixon Deadman stuff come in at $100.
Dickman.
Yeah.
I like that. It's a good name.
When I then saw this one coming at 50, I was like, okay, this one I gotta try.
Sure.
I never pulled the trigger on the $100 bottles, but when I saw this one coming in at 50, that I
Get
can
after it. Yeah.
that I can spring.
Yeah.
That you can spring on and take a chance on and be like, okay, if this is really good, this might spur me to actually really want to try the expensive stuff.
Yeah, and I had a customer that because I had that sample bottle and was sharing with other employees, I was
Slick.
Great cork.
I was sharing this with some other employees, and then one of our regulars who spends a good amount of money came in and he was looking at the gem and he didn't know anything about the American Oak, and I was like, you try a little bit,
Should, yeah.
off the record, try a little bit because we really can't do that. But
You're
try
on
it.
the record now. But
I know. And
Just
Nobody watches.
it's
But no-
live. Yeah, no one's watching anyways. It's fine.
so, but no, he ended up buying.
Nobody's listening.
He ended up buying both this and the Gem of Kentucky.
Nice.
So I mean,
First one's always free. Just like
Lottery. The lottery. The first one in the lottery is always free.
do we just getting back
And back.
as we get towards this, we've been going on for a little while now, and like I said, I don't want to stay too late at the shop, but I did
Looks like
want to
that's inevitable.
I did want to, not after the podcast, but I did want to bring up back to the critical thinking thing. We talked about some of the service level stuff, and I just want to touch on we're going into, and I'm not going to get down the
political season.
we're getting into the political season, and I just hope, and I encourage myself a lot of times too, not just to follow certain, like we talked about the echo chambers
Yeah,
over the
you've been
last
talking
few
about
years.
that. Yeah, you have. You've been,
And I
hammering
feel
that.
like this is a time where if we can't trust our country or our people or across the world to figure out some of the examples I brought up earlier,
Right.
not to get too deep with this, but it's if you the HVAC example I brought up, the heating thing I brought up with like this is your job and you can't even do that where you communicate with me. Because even in that conversation, for those that are just tuning in, it was like, but if you were listening earlier, that was really, this would be more, I guess, relative to what we're talking about, is they said they're waiting to hear back from. And then towards the end, after not the electrician part, but in that initial conversation, towards the end of the conversation, it's like, well, we expect to hear back from them today. And I said, my response was, now you didn't say that earlier. You said you were waiting to find the part and waiting on a call. Sometimes it is something as simple as communication, as always, is that if you would have said that earlier, because what brought that comment on is when I said, all right, so guys, if I don't hear from you today, should I follow up tomorrow or what? Like, this is just the way my mind, when do I follow? Like, I'm going to follow up tomorrow morning.
Right.
Well, we expect to hear back from them today. You didn't say that. If they would have said that, I'm like, cool. So we're expecting a call back or some sort of information today. But you'll follow, like that was, it's those types of things, communication. As we get into these conversations again this year, politics, your relationships, all the things that we talk about on the part 2 of these podcasts, it's so, again, to me, it's imperative that you actually communicate effectively with some of these things. And you don't just fuel your echo chamber of how you already think. If you have these conversations with other people about whatever it is, if you should have a conversation with on an important matter, you don't just assume they're thinking the same thing. Or,
right. Yeah.
you know, Nate, you had brought that up. It's like, if you don't know there's a problem, you know, in your department at a job, then you're never going to know what you're dealing with. And this is, again, you want to be able to figure it out on your own. But if there are other parties involved, part of the success of I think critical thinking is to bring in other parties so that you can think together. And I think that's something that we're in for another roller coaster this year.
Yeah. Right.
Say what you will about it. I don't want to like go into like parties or anything else, but it's just like, keep your head on straight.
Yeah.
Don't
Think for yourself.
Think for yourself, but also listen, because the only way you can really make good decisions or good is to hear other opinions.
Absolutely.
I think also the way our education system is in this country, it's not designed for critical thinking. Like I'll give you a simple example. I saw a video the other day, and the person's like, "This is what's wrong with multiple choice tests." They said, "All right, here's a spoon, a fork, and a knife. Which one of these can be used to stir creamer into your coffee?"
Well, theoretically, all of them.
Exactly. Like all of them can be used, and that's the creativity side of people coming out. Is I can use all 3 of these tools to accomplish the same goal.
Yeah.
But a lot of people sit there and associate one of those items with being able to accomplish that task because that's all they've ever been told.
Well,
is that
obviously a spoon is a choice of preference, but that's not the question you're asking.
exactly? But they're more telling people, you know, trying to think in a certain mind, because critical thinking, like if you can think for yourself, that's dangerous for the powers that be. They don't want people to think for themselves. They want people to just follow in line with what they hear on the news or what they hear in media. Like that's all they want people to think is whatever's put in front of them. They don't want them to actually sit there and take what's been said to them and be like, okay, does that actually make sense? Like, where's this coming from? Is that actually something that's feasible? Like, is that a good idea? They're just going with the flow.
Ask questions.
I think it goes back to like the grocery stores and stuff like that, where you have all the self checkout things as well. There is a time you see some of the personal interactions that will start lacking with all the technology. To your point, Nate, don't think for yourself. You don't have to rely on people to think for themselves, because if it's just going the way you think it should go, right? You already made the decision, or you want them to just go with the way that things are going, you know what I mean? And you're not bothered by the fact that there are no checkout people. There are no, and when you do all that stuff, like you're in self-checkout and you're waiting for an ID check for alcohol, or you're waiting, you know, like there's a problem with said thing, much like, again, going back to my HVAC thing. It's like, well, there's a lot of problems with this. Should we do something else? It's like, no, we're just going to go along with we're going to keep replacing stuff. We take the personal element out of it.
Yeah.
You take all the just not even critical thinking, but just fucking thinking. You take it out. You take the personal element out of a lot of situations, it's going to go the way they want it to. More often than not, you have more problems, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a person who likes the personal touch to things, and I like the human interaction and things. I'm a very loyal person as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, when I go to places that I know that I'm like, okay, I'm friends with, it's like going to a bar, right? You're friends with the bartenders, some of the servers in the place. You want to go and support them, and whenever you go there, you're gonna BS a little bit. You're gonna shoot the shit a little bit, have some fun interactions. Do a shot behind the bar or at the bar or whatever.
Now we're getting really personal.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
drinking out of taps.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's a good time. And it's like that's like a personal touch that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna keep going to that place because first off, those people are my friends.
Sure.
And second of all, I get the nice personal touch that I want to get at some other place where I'm a fucking just every other person that walks in.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a whole. Yeah, I think slowly we're losing that personal touch here, and it's kind of scary. But at the same time, you just got to find the places, and you got to be willing to go to those places where and where you think you can get that interaction.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to go to a place where the fucking bar is, you press a button and it makes a drink for you. Like what's the point of that? Like even if you're with someone, like I'd rather have a bartender there pouring me a drink, making me a cocktail or whatever, and I'm shooting breeze with them. Yeah, I mean, to a certain degree. I'm in 26 in the fucking cigar business. I hope I have an old soul.
You sure do, yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, there's some people that just don't appreciate that anymore, and I just don't understand why. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Nate, you have a comment?
Well, so someone had messaged me a comment like talking about critical thinking skills and being able to remember things, getting by without technology, and how sometimes technology is taking the place of critical thinking. How many phone numbers when you were a kid did you memorize?
Sure.
Versus how many phone numbers do you memorize now?
Yeah, I think there's a fine line.
Or directions.
Yeah.
You used to be able to just know, like, okay, I turn on this street, And we used to print out MapQuest directions and shit.
No.
Or you had a fucking atlas.
There you go.
Yeah. I've got an atlas in the car. I just keep that just in case.
I lived through the phase where people would print out, like my parents would print out MapQuest and stuff like that. I lived through that phase. I didn't have to do it myself.
Yeah.
Luckily, we had GPS and Google and all that.
But now we've given that part of our minds to technology. So what are we doing with that now?
Yeah, I think there's some things that that's not necessarily with the topic at hand being critical thinking. Yes, it's not critical thinking, but like when I first started in the moving and storage industry and we were mostly local, there wasn't GPS, there wasn't those things back into even 2000, right?
Yeah.
So you had a map book that when you had an address, you would, I don't know, a lot of people haven't seen a map book before, but in a like Franklin County or whatever, it's the contiguous counties, you would have it where like, all right, address, you go to the back of it and you're like, this is the street. You'd find it and it's on page 30 and it's B14, and you'd find the street on the map and you'd basically have to reroute it. Like basically like you'd say, oh, I know that area, or how do I get there? You go backwards.
Yeah.
I don't think that's critical thinking as much as, I mean, there's some thinking skills there, like basically problem solving, or, as Ray had said, it's, we talk about critical thinking and problem solving. I think there's part of it there where some of those things that we used to spend our time on, remembering phone numbers, or we rely on technology now to do that. Now, if technology fails completely, you're fucked. And I don't know how to farm. I don't hunt.
Right.
If the whole system shuts down, I'm that person that's going to be really struggling. And I don't want to say I'm okay with that, but I hope that it doesn't get to that point. And Netflix just put that movie out there recently with Julia Roberts and a couple other people that it was about like basically it was a cyber attack, and this is like warfare. These, and you guys watch that at all?
I haven't watched it. I know what you're talking
But
about.
I know that I'm that person. I'm like, if everything shuts down, like
Does that have Pedro Pascal in it?
no. That
was
a different
Last
one.
of Us.
Last of Us, probably similar type thing, but it's like, yeah, you'd have. Hopefully,
I'm a big Pedro Pascal fan, and I like saying Pedro Pascal. So.
I can tell, but we have to figure it out. I think some of the things that technology can do is great. That will save us time.
That's got Blade in it. The guy who's playing the new Blade, Mahershala Ali. He's in season 3 of True Detective.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that guy.
We've narrowed it down.
Cool.
Have you seen it?
No.
Okay.
I just know
well, you should watch it.
That guy from that movie.
It's on Netflix, right? It's a Netflix movie.
I said that.
Yeah. So I gotta resubscribe to my Netflix for that.
You gotta put your
The
new
new Dave
card
Chappelle.
in. You gotta put your new
I
card
gotta put the
in.
new card in there. The new Dave Chappelle, that, and
Bill Burr.
The Dad's thing.
Old Dads.
Old Dads. Okay.
The Dads thing.
Jesus.
My point is that in response to what Nate was saying, the phone numbers, the directions, it's great to have those tools to do that. It's the same thing that like I forget the company, but whoever put out like the atlases, they were making a ton of money off of that because Rand McNally. They put out that you're relying on that technology. If you didn't have the atlas,
that was technology at that point.
That's my point.
Yeah, printout.
So that's the thing. I think some things are just new forms of old technology, if you will, which is an atlas. Now we have it in our phones. Hopefully they work. But the technology is obviously based on like satellites and beyond that. I think the critical thinking part of it is just everyday life. It's not how do you get to a place. You can apply that kind of mental activity that you can figure shit out. Because again, if you like, I don't know how to get there. It's like, I'm not saying drive aimlessly, but okay, what do you know? Do you know how to get out of your neighborhood? Yes. Do you know how to go north? No. Okay. You don't know how to go north. Now let's figure out how you go to north. You can get through these things through like those types of exercises. I'm not saying get rid of technology, not get rid of these things that limit it, but the heavy reliance completely on all that stuff. It's like what you were saying with like the work environment. If all you do is rely on someone else to make the decisions, why am I paying you just to come in here and ask me? Because I'm actually leaning on you to be able to do that part of it. But I think a lot of people don't know how to do anything. They're crippled because all they do is ask it. And then if you are that type of manager, if you are that GPS for that person, now all of a sudden you're just enabling them and they will never learn. And then with, again, full circle, then I have a conversation with you and you're running a business that I know nothing about, but I can actually walk you through, okay, you're saying it's this problem. What are we doing about it? We're waiting. It's like, okay, how long are we waiting? We don't know.
Yeah.
What happens if we wait this long? I don't know. What happens if the heat never comes back on? I don't know. That's
you see the problem here with that guy.
Are you with me at this point?
Right, yeah.
Like, I want heat. What do we do about it?
That makes me.
If you need to know about cigars, I got you. I can tell you about it. I'm relying on you because this is your expertise. You're
supposed to know heat.
You don't have to know everything, like about everything. It's just if you say you know this is what you do. This is what you believe. You know what you're doing. Don't act stupid.
So you talking about that reminded me of
don't be an idiot.
Get your head out of your ass.
It reminded me of a great example when I was younger. One of my dad's good friends, he would host people over at his house for July 4th fireworks and stuff.
Yeah.
And we're sitting in his driveway, and this guy had a strange habit of, if he was driving through the neighborhood and someone was throwing out a lawn chair, like he would take those lawn chairs home and he would repair them and fix them. Like this dude had 40 lawn chairs, never bought any of them. But he would, like, that was just his thing was. And so there was.
Did he sell them?
No,
make money on
no, he used them.
He used them. Okay.
And so he's got a bunch of people over at his house, all sitting in these lawn chairs. And I'm sitting in one, and all of a sudden,
nice chairs.
All of a sudden, one of the support rods in the back falls out of its place, and the chair kind of sits down. And I stand up, and I'm like, "Hey, Smitty, this chair broke." And goes, "All right, so what do you need to do?" I was like, and I'm sitting there holding this chair in my hands as
Gorilla Glue.
And I was probably a teenager. And I'm sitting there looking at this thing, and
I'm use a lot of expands.
No. And I'm looking at him like, okay, well, this rod needs to go back into this bracket. He goes, cool. You identify the problem. What do you do? I'm like, all right. So I just kind of line the rod up into the hole where it was supposed to go. And I'm like, all right, how do I get this to actually push through? And I'm like, I just turned it on its side and just started bashing it against the side of the pavement.
Smack it with a hammer.
So that way, then the rod went up, and he just sat there and he goes, that's a smart way to do that. And that was one of the biggest compliments that guy ever gave me.
Smitty was a
Shout out to
kind
Smitty.
man.
Well, yeah. But he was one of those guys, coming from a different generation where if there was a problem, you used your hands and you fixed the fucking problem. You didn't sit there and go, oh, my chair broke. I'm going to go spend $20, $30 on a new chair. It's like, no, you just have to push the rod back into the hole.
I had a similar experience when I provided chairs when you come over to my house a lot of times, and someone looks at me and says, your chair broke. I'm like, well, bring one next time. Because I'm not going to keep buying fucking chairs for you people.
What do you mean, you people? Shout out Robert Downey Jr.
I think we should round out here, boys.
That might be a good idea. What a great time, Steven. I'm glad we figured this out.
Me too.
We
Because
figured
we
it
would
out.
not have had. We figured it out.
You want to run that into your closing remarks, Tyler?
There you go. Start your closing remarks here. Figure it
Absolutely.
out.
First of all, thank you all for tuning in tonight. Hope you all get to enjoy the new Espinosa Sumatra like we have.
Mhm.
Nice medium body, good spice, nice nuttiness, good creaminess to it. The nice Isaac Bowman. Is that right? Isaac Bowman?
Yeah.
Yep, the port finish. I think I did end up raising that to an 8.
So it keeps
by the end.
climbing.
It kept climbing. So
yeah,
it's out of
one
8.
more glass. That's a 10 bottle.
That was, no,
I feel
no,
like that's the
no.
way things go.
8 was the high point I was going to go on that. So I would like to say 8. I would say
still
this
want
is-
to talk about Tyler being in a bar
This is 9
and
and a
how
half.
it goes, what he drinks.
Oh,
This is 9.5. I could get down with this all day long. Shout out to the dude from Kentucky Owl, who did that. Dickman. Deadman.
You said Dickman.
Dixon Deadman.
Dixon Deadman.
Good night, boys.
Oh, we got the maturity of a 14-year-old.
But yeah,
Jesus.
yeah, go out and get the Espinosa Sumatra if you get a chance. Should be pretty easy to find. I know all of our sales teams working hard to get it everywhere, and
And
sales
it's
have been
still in
fantastic.
inventory in your guys' inventory. So, like, if you are
Yeah.
at a brick and mortar they have not ordered yet, you want to try, mention something.
Yeah, go ask your local retailer, and hopefully they give us a shot, especially in the Midwest. They can get a hold of me. You can find me on social media at tyler.e.jones25. That's my Instagram handle.
Were there 24 other Tyler E. Jones?
No, 25 is my baseball number in high school, so
Nice.
got to hold on to that. Yeah. Have you ever seen my high school tape? I rocked in high school.
You know, I didn't. I missed that. It's on YouTube. I'll check it
Glory days.
Shout out to
All
Couples Retreat for that one.
All right,
John Favreau.
out.
right
Uncle
there.
Rico, calm down.
But yeah, you can go follow me there on Instagram and yeah, give it a shot and let me know what you think. I appreciate you guys having me out in the podcast tonight. Glad we got to figure it out and put it
Dorothy Crane is now watching at 10:41.
beautiful.
All right. Watch your language.
So yeah, I will.
She's heard me say it, so don't worry about it.
Okay, fair enough. And so yeah, thank you guys for having me. Glad we made this happen, especially the first ever offsite bourbon and BS?
First ever Tinder Box at Easton.
First ever in the Tinder Box. There was one where Steve was on vacation in Cuba,
Mm.
and Jake went to
DR.
or you were in
That time.
DR, and Jake went to Brian's garage
Yeah.
and did
Ah,
it in the garage.
Shout out Jake Sanders.
Well, with the whole crew offsite, I feel like this was a very successful for 301. He made it a long way with.
Yeah, you take that full turn
so-
at 300. And
Right.
Now it's just the endless possibilities. There's
Right,
also
yeah,
a new
yeah.
bourbon bar that I reached out that they're going to be opening up in a couple weeks or
Oh.
a couple months, actually. I'm going to talk to Nate about doing something out there that we might be expanding the bourbon and BS.
Oh, beautiful.
Uh,
if Espinosa can be a
outreach.
part of that, just let me know.
absolutely.
Yeah,
that
we
one over
appreciate
by my
everything you
side
guys.
of town.
We appreciate everything you guys do for
Not
us on the podcast, and I appreciate you guys allowing me on here and spreading the good word of Espinosa. And you know, this is more than just a podcast; it's a friendship, of course, over
Mhm.
countless years. So appreciate everything, and yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to figure your shit out on your own too. So
Sometimes you have to.
sometimes you have to. You got to adapt. We all got to.
Nate,
some
how
point.
about you? as we round out closing remarks
I
here.
will sit back and enjoy this 2XO by our friend Dickman.
So
Agreed.
I think when it comes to the idea of figure it out, part of it is to get rid of the reliance on other people to come up with solutions for your problems. I think we've gotten too accustomed to our problems being fixed by other people, whether it be our internet provider or what.
Personal here, but yeah,
bringing it home. Breeze line, you fucking suck. But no, I think younger generations, but even still ours, because we, Steve, you and I grew up in a time where there wasn't as much technology and we had to rely on other things and figure stuff out. And now we've gotten to the point where technology kind of takes that over. We've lost the ability in our generation to figure things out. Younger generations like Tyler's or even younger, they've only ever had the technology. So they've never had to figure it out before.
Yeah.
But I think with some of us and even generations older, I think some of the older generations, like they still do a lot of things on their own when it comes to figuring it out. Ours is in that weird transition where we started out at a younger age doing things on our own, and then technology took over. But I think we need to get back to figuring it out on our own, because that technology may not always be there, or it may not be accurate. But also, you don't want to be reliant on other people to solve your problems, because it's kind of to your example in your old career, you had people calling you to come up with a problem, and then you would call them back 5 minutes later and they've already figured it out. It's like, well, why didn't you just try and figure it out before you called me? But it's like, by you, and you probably didn't realize you were doing it at the time.
No, I did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
God damn it.
Go. I'm sorry. No, I didn't. Go on.
By you not answering the phone the first time they called,
Sir.
it forced them into a situation where they had to come up with a solution on their own. And so initially that person was trying to offload the problem onto you. They didn't want the responsibility of coming up with a solution. But because someone wasn't available, it was left to them. Like, the buck stops here. Well, they couldn't call someone, so the buck stopped at them. They had to come up with the solution to that problem. And by you not answering the phone was the best thing in some of those situations, because it caused them to actually think about things.
Yeah. And
hopefully it's one of those situations where, as time went on, if that person had another issue come up, they would realize, hey, I have figured this out before on my own.
Yeah.
I don't have to rely on other people to come up with a solution for me. And so it causes them to then look at other issues that they come up with, whether work related or personal life, where instead of relying on other people to come up with a solution, what if I just was my own solution? What if I came up with it?
Fucking figure it out. Yeah. I didn't at first know, like, took a little bit of time where I did pick up the phone call, and I'm like, it's something that's like, I know the person knows what to do. It literally is so much easier sometimes.
But if they know, why are they reaching out?
It's part of the line of thinking that we have now. With no, it's in my mind, it's part of what we have now. It's a lot easier to ask a source that knows it, that you don't have to waste any mental capacity. You'd rather just be like, hey, what do we do with this? It's like, I can be like, well, you've done this before, walk you through it and all that stuff. And it's almost like a teenager, right? Like a kid, where they ask you stuff and like, you know how to do this already. I've already shown you. Well, it's easier if you just do it for me. It's like,
if you hold their hand and walk them through it.
No, it's easier if you do it for me. It is for you, but not for me. Now my time's wasted. So there are a lot of those things. It built up to a point where I'm just like, I'm just not going to answer this person or the office. If it's very urgent, they're going to call again because I mean, we had the technology of cell phones, stuff like that, but we didn't have the smartphones. And this was, early 2000s, mid 2000s even. But it's easier for them to just make a phone call or whatever, and I say, oh yeah, just got to do this, this, and this. I do that a couple of times, and all of a sudden I'm like, why are you calling me again? So it got to that point, right, where it's easier for you to reach out to someone to do it for you. And it wasn't just about like, this is what we're paying you for. But it got to that point where it's easier always for someone else to do it for you.
That makes me think of when Motorola came out with the cell phones that had like the walkie-talkie feature.
Yeah.
Where you just push the button.
That was what we had. Nextels. But I learned those things over time about how to grow different employees, and I think that's a good kind of a bridge there of a lot of things in other parts of your life. I remember the first time we opened up a branch with this company, and I told them, because they knew they could rely on me, and so they would be much easier to ask me than the person I put in the assistant manager of that branch position. Even if I was off, there was a couple times I was out of town, and you brought up that Nextel thing, and my phone would chirp, and it's like, hey, what do we do with this? And I'd run it through. It got to that point where I was like, okay, guys, I am available, but I'm available through, the guy's name was Tim. And I said, I'm available through Tim. So on these days, on my off days, I'm available to Tim, but you need to run it through him first. So then Tim would learn how to handle these issues, and hopefully it would trickle it down. These are those types of things that it's like, yeah, I can be the enabler. I can tell you what I know. And I don't want to be that kind of like that prick boss or the person where it's like, oh, what do you think we should do? It's like, well, I asked you. That's why, I don't know. It got to that point where it's like, it got very effective to really quickly that it's like, I'm available, but now you have to Tyler, if you have a question,
you have to go through my subordinates.
Tyler, you're going to ask me, and I'm like, well, I'm off, so ask Nate. And then Nate, if he doesn't know, now Nate has to get a hold of me, and I'm going to translate through Nate. And then now Nate's learning, and hopefully that will continue that process of how to critically think through solutions, through problems. And it was a fine line to walk. And I think that's kind of my closing remarks there, is that wherever you are at in that scenario, you really have to have a self-reflection of, what am I learning, as opposed to just relying on crutches. Because at some point, if Nate, in that scenario, right? So if Tyler's the employee, you're the assistant manager, I'm the manager, and Nate's now annoyed with me because he's getting all the problems, like, you're supposed to be learning it, and hopefully you do. And the fact that Tyler can't reach out directly to me, now he's annoyed with me because, oh, Steve's never available and all that stuff. There's some resentment building up there. But the communication channels sometimes will really bring about some sort of growth and in my opinion, critical thinking skills that are growing for that individual where you are. Because I've had employees in the past that at the time, and I've literally been told this, I didn't like you at the time. I felt like you didn't want to be bothered or you were lazy. Now I understand.
Boy, isn't that a great thing when you're in that?
Sucks that they felt that way, but it's like.
But when you're in a management position and all of a sudden they come to you with that, you're like, cool, that means I'm doing my job because I'm making you a better person by not relying on me.
Yeah, you're learning and all that stuff. And I had people do that to me, and it's like you pass that down. And I think that's part of the process through all this stuff, is that no one knows. And that is the whole topic tonight, is figure it out, is that you don't always have to do it on your own. But when you're forced to do it on your own, you might make mistakes. That's part of the territory. If you just rely on other people to make the decisions for you or tell you what you want to do, or even not worse, but even on top of that, if you're making decisions because you just think that's going to make the other party happy, none of this works. It's really addressing what's going on, and it's really trying to say, okay, what do they want? What do I want? How do I make this work? What do I do? Now all of a sudden you're taking the whole puzzle and you're putting it together. And I think that's really where you never really know. We're always growing and we're always figuring things out because you're going to have a new problem. But you can have people that you lean on for advice. But if you're just leaning on people heavily to make the decisions for you, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to learn from. You're not growing, and you're just. And on top of that, you have no worth at that point.
Yeah.
The worst part of it, you have no worth because again, at some point, whether it be your boss, whether it be your significant other, whether it be whatever the situation is, if they're doing everything and you're just along for the ride, you're dead weight, man. You got to figure this shit out sometimes on your own.
Yeah. Like in your previous industry, you know, was in the moving and storage. If those people always come to you with a problem, never figure it out, all they are is a mover. That's all they ever are. And
if I have to tell you how to move stuff, then what am I like? I might as well go do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you keep asking me, how do I do this? How do I do this? And all stuff's like, we trained you. You obviously don't we gave you the tool belt. You don't know how to use the tools. Now you got another problem.
I think that's why when like a young person becomes an entrepreneur and they're motivated and they're out willing to hustle everybody and stuff like that, I think that's why it makes them so much more dynamic than not talking shit about older people whatsoever, but it makes you a step above them to a certain degree. And it really benefits the young and hungry guy who's willing to, go balls out. I mean, I think that's one of the things that's helped me throughout the years and stuff like that is I've kind of been the guy to fucking, make a stand and fucking keep my
absolutely
hard work ethic at the level it's been since day one. And I think that's helped, just in life as in general.
Well, I think
not saying I know everything because
that's the key. That's the key.
I'm willing to learn.
Know what your limits are,
and I know I know who to listen to and who to keep my ears open around. And luckily, I'm surrounded by a lot of those good people, and I got a lot of their respect.
And that's a choice too, who you remind or who you surround yourself with, right? So that's all part of it. So that being said,
that could be a whole nother podcast.
Absolutely. So
I think it's been before, but
it has, and I appreciate Tyler. Thank you for the cigars. Thank you very much.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks to the audience out there, you guys listening live, and people in the shop. And appreciate cheers to Tinder Box at Easton and Brian Joyce for letting us have this podcast.
Brian's the man.
A little bit warmer than my garage would have been
by about 50 degrees.
Not to quantify it, but
it might be 60 degrees.
Oh wait, if you had the heater running, 40.
If you're sitting on the heater. Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
And cheers, everyone out there. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. We will see you next week. And cheers to Crown Heads for being who they are. Jake Sanders.